Authentics 40, sponsored by Bandit Racing League here at the Daytona Road Course. 142 miles, 40 laps. For the second time here at Daytona, my name is Evan Wall. I'm here with my co-commentator, Marshall. So good to see you guys. Let me see if I can get his camera up. There we go.
There we go. Hi, everybody.
Now myself and Marshall falling down on my duties a little bit. Forgot what I had to do. But we're here at the Daytona International Speedway here at the road this season, obviously for the oval first race of the year. Now we're here for the road course, and of course the quickest time up on the board so far a 1:54.67 by the number 2 car of Nick Nickerson. He's definitely going to be the man to beat, don't you think so, Marshall?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to think anything otherwise. I mean, you just watched Nick at Long Beach earlier this year, and it felt like a guy that was just on an entirely different level, that just had a different level of comfort. And I think that's going to be the most important thing tonight is a lot of you at home might watch the first race there at Long Beach going into tonight and think, well, how does Nick do it? And I think a lot of it just comes down to comfort, Evan. Like, he comes out and he just, it acts like he's, just another day at work. Whereas for a lot of these guys, they're used to the mainly oval calendar. You come to the road course and it's a step away from the normal. So the fact that Nick can just show up and feel that confident about what he's doing, I think is a lot of where his speed comes from. He can trust the car in the corners. He can trust it on some of those difficult hairpins and bus stops we're going to see a lot here at the Daytona Road Course. And in the end, it worked for him at Long Beach, and I can't wait to see if it works for him again tonight at Daytona Road Course.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we're going to go ahead with 2 minutes and 18 seconds left in practice here before qualifying starts. We're going to go ahead to a little bit of a pre-race track preview that I had Nick film earlier. So I just was in the car with him and had him talk on the radio, kind of talk through the track a little bit. So we're going to go to that, and we'll be back here in a minute.
All right, I'm Nick Nickerson. Here's one lap around Daytona NASCAR Road Course. Going pretty high speed down to low speed. So turn 1, going to be really heavy on the brakes, trying hard not to lock up. You're going to want to tuck it in and avoid the negative camber areas. Turn 2, we kind of want to try to get the straightest line possible to set us up for turn 3, where we'll take a midline entry. Heavy on the brakes, try to tuck it in as hard as you can. Careful not to spin the tires on exit. Very easy to do. Turn 4, it's a little bit of a kink. Just off the throttle, kind of roll it as best you can into turn 5, which is again heavy on the brakes. We're going to try to tuck it in as good as possible. Careful with the throttle on exit. And we'll set up for turn 5, is it? Turn 5 or 6? This is the most important corner on the track because it leads to the longest straightaway, so it's important to get a good runoff. As you can see, it gets pretty slippery there during the transition. And then turn 7 and 8 is just a NASCAR oval. Try to keep it on the low line. Get the best runoff. We break in around the 3 mark for the first bus stop. Heavy on the brakes. Try not to lock up and, try to get your best run through the bus stop. Try not to hit the turtles because they will mess you up. And good runoff for the second longest straightaway-ish, I guess you can say. I mean, it does incorporate NASCAR turns, but. And then you want to set up for the final 2 turns. Braking on the 7, riding the wall as much as you can, turning down through the elbow. So you can get as straight of a run through the S's as possible. And that is 1 lap around Daytona NASCAR Road.
As to what it's like behind the scenes from Nick Nickerson right there, and here you can see what this track looks like. You can see the track map, a little bit of an overview here as qualifying gets ready to start. So also the weather outside tonight, 64 degrees, 51% humidity. Overcast with an 18 mile per hour wind. And a little bit about this track. It's 3.5 miles long, 64 degrees outside. And of course, in Daytona Beach, Florida here, you see Nick getting ready to take his qualifying lap right now. And so this track is 40 laps. We're running 40 laps here. Same amount of laps that we ran at the Long Beach Street Circuit, but the Long Beach Street Circuit was 78 miles, 40 laps there, and 40 laps here is going to be 142 miles, so a much longer track. It ought to be a grueling and very demanding race for all the drivers that we have tonight. I believe almost 40 drivers, if not that many. I didn't see a final count. Last I looked, it was about 35 at the very least.
Yeah, I think significantly more about endurance than Long Beach was. I mean, Long Beach kind of felt like a sprint in a lot of ways, where it was you trust your abilities in the car, you trust your practice efforts, you trust your ability to get the car through some of those tight corners, especially on cold tires at the start of a stint, and you just say, okay, we're gonna do it. Whereas here at Daytona, I am of the utmost confidence that anybody that doesn't come into this thing with, as I keep saying, confidence in their car, but also just that level of patience and the level of understanding of the track. If you don't come in with all those things put together, I don't think guys are making it through 10 laps of this race, let alone the entire 40.
And real quick, let's go ahead and go to our championship standings. So the first couple of drivers there, obviously, since they all have wins, are going to be locked in. Ricky Hart Jr., Nick Nickerson, Curtis Yancey, Brandon Jackson, Dustin Franklin, and Cody Welch, all locked into the championship with wins. Then behind them, Garrett Hall with 207 points, the most points of a driver without a win. Then Benjamin Lacey, Christopher Ferrara, Trey Ellis, Matt Crockett, Victor Weaver, and Peter Murphy to round out the top 10. So definitely a lot of quick drivers, a lot that I expect could be getting a win soon, because we lock in 12 drivers that don't have a win, as well as all the drivers that do. So like I talked about last race, we could have a big field of drivers heading into round 1 of the championship. So I believe I first announced it last race, but if you weren't here, the way you get into round 1, anybody who wins a race is going to get into round 1 of the championship, plus anyone who is in the top 12 in points without a win. Or not the top 12 in points, the top 12 drivers that do not have a win. So, anyone who has a win, and then after that, the top 12 drivers who do not have a win are going to get into round 1 in points. So, if we have different winners each week, we could have 10 drivers get in on wins and 12 get in on points. So that could be 22 drivers in the first round of the playoffs. No matter what, though, in round 2, points are going to reset, and only the top 8 drivers will advance past that. So it definitely could be an interesting playoff with so many drivers getting in to round 1. Nobody set down a qualifying time just yet, though, but we're watching Nick Nickerson in the 2-car head around the track. And one thing that I think is a little bit interesting, normally every single race here with the Bandit Racing League is run on half a tank of fuel, half a tank of what a normal Xfinity car would run. This race, that was a little bit iffy getting the whole way around, though, so running with 60% fuel here tonight at the Daytona road course.
Yeah, I think a lot of that just speaks to how the car utilizes fuel and how much of the time you spend on the throttle compared to a normal race. I think it's interesting, actually, that it would be under. I would have thought compared to a normal event that for the same distance in terms of miles, that it would actually, you'd save a lot of fuel because you spend a lot less time on the gas going full speed and corners just like the one Nick is going through now. But very quickly, like if you want an exhibition or a showcase of just how tricky this Daytona road course car can be in one of these Xfinity cars that really aren't primarily built for road course racing. Nick even had a slip up in his first out lap there to the pits for practice and in qualifying and had to take another one. So if Nick Nickerson is having troubles in his first out lap attempt, this is going to be a long night for some guys.
Yeah, if Nick Nickerson has trouble at a road course, then it's definitely going to be trouble for everyone. As you saw the 51 car there, Curtis Yancey getting real loose coming out of the corner. And one of the things that I noticed when I practiced around here a little bit just to see what it was like, I noticed that especially on that infield section, it's really easy to overdrive your car. You really want to get on the gas quick, but you can't necessarily do that. You have to really be easy on the throttle. Through there, you're really going to want to spin out. You're going to want to lose the rear end of your car. So that's definitely something that I think we could see a lot, as right now Ricky Hart Jr. in the 64 car takes the top spot for the moment.
Yeah, really great lap there from the 64 car, and just as you're talking about, Evan, yeah, it's all about patience on the throttle and the ability to trust the car longer and longer into the stint. Once you start to get more laps on those tires, once the car starts to even out a little bit, you don't have to worry about cold tires. It's knowing where that boundary is, where you can push the car without having any oversteer whatsoever, but to that point where you have a little bit where you kind of got to get the hands moving, got to keep the back end under you. But I think that the one thing that is going to flip this entire thing on its head is most of these guys haven't run in these conditions at this track with a large pack of cars, and that's going to come into play in a lot of ways, like the the tow you're going to get on the straightaway or the oval portions of this track. When you get into some of those higher braking zones like the bus stop, it's going to be entirely different, and a lot of these guys probably haven't practiced running into those zones from the inside lane in case there's a car to their outside rather than the more optimal usual outside in lane. So it's going to be different. It's going to be about how can guys adapt to those conditions whilst at the same time trusting the boundaries they already set in their own practice attempts before tonight's race.
Yeah, and talking about practice, one thing that is very interesting, these guys have been practicing on this racetrack all week, and then with the iRacing update yesterday, iRacing added turtles to the backstretch chicane, or not the backstretch chicane, that final, or are they on both chicanes, Marshall?
Yeah, there's two in the bus stop, and they added one on each the two inside curbs in the final hairpin, or the final like little mini chicane.
Yeah, so they added turtles to both of those chicanes that they really changed the way that you run this track, because it's a place of the track that you could normally cut over the grass a little bit and it's not that big of a deal. Instead, if you hit those turtles, then it's really going to send your car flying and it could end your day.
Absolutely, and it's one thing that the unfortunate part of iRacing doing this update so late is that they come in so late, because as you alluded to there, Evan, they are so crucial to the entire track. That bus stop, guys are going to on average probably lose about a second off of what they run before, because you got to woe the car up much more in the middle part of that bus stop before you take the right hander to get out of it, because instead of, as you mentioned, just being able to cut straight through, maybe get a little bit of grass on your left side, you actually have to make the physical movement in a tight space. And these NASCAR Xfinity cars, as we even just see watching a lap here from Brandon Jackson in qualifying, they're so tough to get around those little margins. Like, these cars are not meant for tight, nimble maneuvers without the back end going around. So it's going to change the complexion of this race for sure. And I really hope if we get some too wide racing there, we don't see it become a problem for some of these guys in battles.
Yeah, so now we're looking at Brandon Jackson, driver of the 99 car. And on his Skype stream tonight, he'll be having a foot cam for us to watch. You can really see the way he works that throttle and brake. So as he goes around for, I believe, his second qualifying lap, now we're going to watch that foot cam up in the top right corner.
And it's one thing that's so important that you see he's doing there is that, like, transition from gas to brake. It's not one of those things where you can be on one or you can be on either, and it's 100% both ways. You really got to be subtle, and you got to be a little bit diverse with how you decide to use the pedals in any given corner. It's not just hard braking, lock the back end up in every corner. At least it shouldn't be. It should be, that nice transition from one to the other, whereas one goes down, one comes up, and vice versa. And Brandon did a great job of that in that interior section. So now you see he's just flat out here through the oval. You want to stay as tight to the bottom as you can, just like you would in a qualifying lap at the oval. And then we'll see what he does into the bus stop, because I know a lot of guys get hard on the brakes. A lot of guys like to have a nice gradual braking point there at an earlier braking zone. So we'll see what the 99 does. Yeah, he goes for a pretty aggressive braking point there, just tapping the throttle, actually, which I think is quite interesting. So he's got an interesting strategy there, but he gets a great run on the bus stop. Is he going to avoid the turtles? He does. So it was a great entry and exit there for the 99 car. This could be a very good lap.
Yeah, tapping the throttle there in order to blip the gas as he downshifts. Yeah, so there you see him hard into the brakes again and just a little bit into the wall there. Going to slow him down just a little bit, but quick lap from Brandon Jackson, and we'll see where he ends up on the board.
Yeah, avoided that final curb there perfectly, and he's going to come across the line. We'll see where he moves on the timing boards. He's going to go 9th, so not bad at all. 1:58.28. We had 3 guys run an exact identical time. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come here at Daytona Road Course.
Yeah, so right now on the pole, going to be Nick Nickerson, and I will go ahead and pull up our grid. Like I said, on the pole, On the pole, driver of the number 2 car, Nick Nickerson, with a time of a 1:54.784. Starting on his outside, driver of the 64 car, Ricky Hart Jr. Then you have Curtis Yancey in the 51, Curtis Michaelis in the 07, the Canadian starting in 4th. Behind him, Cody Welch, Kevin Foster, Garrett Hall, Benny Hogan, Brandon Jackson, and Tyler Rowland to round out your top 10.
Then into the 10s, we got Benjamin Lacey starting in 11th with Brett Kuzik to his outside starting 12th. Then Corey Shepard will start 13th with Christopher Ferrara in 14th. Jarrett Gradzicki will be in the 15th position with Mark Allen Bivens sitting to his outside in 16th. Nicholas Sneed is in 17th position with Cale Zook to his outside in 18th. Jason Greenwell in 19th, and beginning the 20s, Mr. Eddie Hagge in the 97 car.
21st is the 48 car of Connor Sawyer, followed by David Leakey, and then Victor Weaver. 25th going to be Marshall Moran in the 90. Then we have Alan Castle, Anthony Caetano, James R. Hartley, Trey Ellis, and Joey Zaremba.
In the 31st position, we got Peter Murphy. To his outside, Dustin Franklin in the 60 car, winner of our race originally here at Daytona to start off the year. Let's see if he can maybe do something similar here at the road course. But in 33rd, we got Hunter Henry, Mason Flagar in 34th to his outside. Our very own Bill Harkins starts in 35th with Terry Condis to his outside starting 36th. Mitchell Liam Sullivan will start 37th in tonight's event. Thomas Fensler in 38th. And Michael Van Diver in the 300 car will start in 39th.
All right, so sitting here on the back stretch, ready to take the pace lap around here, and I'm assuming that iRacing is going to do this just like NASCAR actually will, and they're not going to take that chicane, the last chicane, before you hit the start-finish line. So if so, you'll see these drivers, since they're not taking that last chicane, they'll be diving down into turn 1 a lot quicker than they normally are. So that'll definitely be something to watch. Everybody trying to get woed up and hit their braking markers as they dive down into turn 1. Not positive if they're going to be doing that, but since that's what NASCAR does, I'm assuming that's what we will be doing here.
Yeah, you bring up a great point though about carrying more speed there on the very first time through the corner. I think it's going to be really telling based on what guys do in that very first corner, how they're going to treat the rest of the race. If you stay nice and calm, you maybe pull away from the drivers ahead to make sure you can get a good braking point. Nobody checks up into you. I feel like that's the safe play, so we'll see who makes that sort of maneuver and just tries to get through the corner, and we'll see what guys say, okay, the only way I'm catching Mr. Nick Nickerson in the 2 car is if I get a great jump on this first restart. And unfortunately, yeah, I think we are going to take the chicane, which will stack the field up a little bit. They have cones there on the inside, so this will make it interesting. The pace car is getting ready to dive in.
Yeah, the pace car heading off right now. The number 2 car of Nick Nickerson gonna lead us to green, and he's off. The 64 car of Ricky Hart Jr. gonna be to his outside. The 51 of Curtis Yancey following him below on the inside line. Diving down into turn 1 is the 2 car.
Yeah, we'll see if everybody makes it through here cleanly. It looks like everybody was able to stay to that inside curving, so a successful first corner for now. We'll keep an eye there on the back. Ricky Hart loses the back end. What a save by the 64 car. Kept the back end underneath him, but Curtis Yancey's going to capitalize, going to send it to the inside into turn number 4.
Curtis Yancey with a big move here on lap 1, and we've already got trouble in the back of the field.
Yeah, Brandon Jackson, a notable name that I see there dropping. Same with Kevin Foster. So a few big names in this series going out there in lap number 1. There's Brandon Jackson. The car actually doesn't look in too bad repair, so he'll try to rejoin the track and reset, keep going. Not sure what happened to Kevin Foster there in the 8 car, but he also appeared to be off track on my screen.
Yeah, I see Brandon Jackson and Kevin Foster both off track, as well as Joey Zaremba and Mitchell Liam Sullivan. We'll see if we can see what happened. Heading to a replay now, watching Nicholas Sneed. Eight car of Kevin Foster looked like he was already around. Let's see if we can head back a little bit further, see if we can find it. Okay, guys, we should be back live now. Sorry about that. Believe we are, at least. Yeah, back live now. And here's the 2 car of Nick Nickerson, already off to a very quick start here at Daytona. Yeah, sorry for that. A little bit of technical difficulties to begin the broadcast. But trouble already for the 8 car of Kevin Foster, as well as Garrett Hall, Benny Hogan, Nicholas Sneed, Joey Zaremba, Mitchell Liam Sullivan, and Brandon Jackson. David Leakey, I'm seeing also with some trouble. Nickerson out front right now, though. If we go back a little bit in the field, Curtis Yancey sitting in second, Cody Welch in third. Right behind him, Ricky Hart Jr., and Curtis Michaelis in the 07 car.
Yeah, Curtis Michaelis, a new name to me, at least personally. I don't recognize his name so far from the rest of the season. I think he made an appearance a couple weeks back, and I wasn't here last week, so not sure if he had success there. But yeah, he's looked great so far tonight. He's keeping up with 2 very competitive drivers in Cody Welch and Ricky Hart. Gets a little bit of a slide there coming out of corner number 4, but does save the back end. And yeah, Curtis Yancey, since he made the move there at the very beginning to move up to second, has just taken off. But this battle now between Welch and Hart behind him is heating up. So you got to think Yancey's chances to pull away from the guys behind is getting better and better, and he can focus on Nick Nickerson. But yeah, this battle here between Cody Welch and Ricky Hart. Ricky Hart on the very first lap actually took a huge tumble there over the first sausage curb we were talking about there at the very end of the lap in that final chicane. We talked about how they might come into an important effect, and they certainly did. He bounced there almost into the outside wall earlier in the race, and that gave both Yancey and Welch some breathing room, but this battle continues. Hart should be in the draft there on the number 85 car, so we'll see if he can make something work coming out of the bus stop.
Yeah, Ricky Hart, one of those drivers that he's always fast on the ovals, but he's just such a good driver. I don't think road courses are necessarily his specialty, but always fast on the road courses as well. Pretty much any track we go to, that 64 car is going to be quick.
Well, I think, though, it may be...
Trouble's well now for the 48 car. Connor Sawyer with a good bit of damage to that driver's side as you saw him down through the chicane.
Yeah, quite a bit of trouble there, but he got it back up to speed quite quickly. There's Kevin Foster, who was involved in an incident there on the very first lap. And additionally, I think that's the 84 of, I believe, Jason Greenwell, if I remember off the top of my head, who is going with him. So, bit of a train there forming by him. He's going to keep it to the inside, though. Going to try to make the move on the 84 car. Almost gets into him, but great reactionary move there by the 84 car, who goes wide. Sends it off the track.
That's David Leakey in the 84 car off the track there. As you see the 11 of Bill Harkins now heading to his outside.
Yeah, David Leakey there, he made a great move to let the car on the inside by to just, try to keep out of the way of Sawyer. But yeah, he just didn't quite calculate the bus stop there in the aftermath. And now he's got the 98 to his outside. Got to get used to some of these new paint schemes. But yeah, the 84 car now into this final chicane. 98 car with a deep send, locks it up pretty bad. He's going to take out a few cones with him. Who is that sliding into him? Catches the nose of that car and kind of gets stuck there on the sausage curb. All sorts of chaos happening on only the 4th lap of tonight's race.
Yeah, big trouble for the 79 car right there. That's Anthony Caetano. All happening right in front of the 60 of Dustin Franklin. And then you saw James R. Hartley in the 98 car involved as well in that little accident. If we head back up front, though, Nick Nickerson, of course, still out front, but Curtis Yancey still sitting in second, but Ricky Hart Jr. not too far behind Yancey. And then Welch directly behind Ricky Hart Jr. in the 64 car, sitting there in 3rd position. Welch, the 85, we saw him do really good at Long Beach, and he seems to be doing well tonight, too.
Yeah, for sure. He seems to have carried that success over from Long Beach for sure, and I think it was kind of a good practice attempt for a lot of these guys to come into tonight, because though I think Daytona is generally an easier road course than Long Beach is, it definitely shows comfort in your car. You get used to what it takes to keep the back end under you. And Cody Welch, ton of success there earlier this season, and he's making it translate. He's keeping up with Ricky Hart, who of anybody in the series might be the most comfortable in one of these Xfinity cars. So not a bad day at the office at all. Same again with the '07 of Michaelis. He's had a ton of success and only 5 laps to be only 3 seconds back of a guy like Ricky Hart, 2 seconds back of a guy like Cody Welch. And I don't believe with points he's currently in those spots we talked about earlier, Evan, that guarantee you a championship spot. So tonight could be a big night for the '07 car, and so far all systems are go.
Yeah, the number 2 of Nick Nickerson, obviously the favorite of a lot of people to win here tonight, but he makes one mistake passing a lap car, and that can be somebody else's way into the championship, really, because you never know what can happen passing a lap car. Just, you can be great at this track, but just go into the corner with a little bit too much speed, get on your gas a little bit too early, and you run into somebody else, your day's going to be over. It's definitely a tricky track here, and there's a lot of drivers that are just going to be hoping that 2-car messes up here at some point.
Absolutely. There's almost very few other ways to catch him at this point. You see even 5 laps in, 12-second lead. Nick Nickerson is just on another level driving any stock car around a road course. You see just how wide he gets there. He's running a great line through the corner, carrying lots of speed. Now he's coming down towards that final chicane there. We'll see what he does with the rumble curbs there that I can give a lot of drivers, even experienced guys, a lot of trouble because it's just such a bizarre corner and having to take it so much differently now with that new update we talked about earlier. Well, let's see how he does it. But yeah, just so much comfort. Keeps the back end under him, doesn't slide the tires, and makes it through. Nick Nickerson is looking comfortable, and I feel like he's looking ahead of him, like you mentioned, for lap cars rather than looking in his rearview mirror for second.
Yeah, and so far right now, the last car on the lead lap going to be the 9 car of Joey Zaremba. And where he's at on the track, let's see if we can wait till it pulls up on the timing screen again. Yeah, Joey Zaremba, 1 minute and 42 seconds behind the leader. And right now, Nick Nickerson's last lap was 1 minute 57. So obviously some damage for that 9 car, but it won't be too long before the 2 of Nick Nickerson is going to catch up to the number 9 DeWalt Supra.
I think the one thing that makes this track particularly tough to pass lap cars at is just how funneled some of the corner sections can be. Like it's so tight in parts. You talk about that final chicane there towards the end of the lap and just how tight it squeezes the cars in. 1 car can barely make it through there, let alone 2. So Nick is going to be in some tough situations later, but now I believe that's the 72 car of Mason Flagar, if I remember my car numbers correctly. It is. He's having a good battle with Bill Harkins here, coming up towards the bus stop. Or sorry, that's the final turn. That's the final chicane. I talked about those rumble curbs there, but imagine trying to get 2 cars through there, let alone 1 lapped and 1 on pace. So it is going to be crazy later. But now Bill's going to send it to the inside of Mason Flagar. There is Trey Ellis a little ways up, making the almost identical move on another car. So a lot of cars in this midfield here, really packed up into this area of the track.
Yeah, Bill Harkins with the good move to get by the 72 car of Mason. And then you saw right in front of him Trey Ellis making the pass on Terry Condis in that 32 car. Terry's been away for a couple of races. It's been a while since we've seen him here at the Bandit Racing League. And some trouble there for the 72 of Flagar. Flagar around, a little bit of a contact with the 84 of Leakey. And there Dustin Franklin in the 60, able to take advantage as Flagar gets back on the track.
Yeah, it looked like he just caught a little bit of the back end of Bill Harkins as well. Hopefully his car is still in good condition to keep going. But in some capacity, I mean, you do spend a lot of this track on the high-speed sections. You still have to run most of the Daytona Oval. But I found in my own practice efforts, you can take a couple bumps there off those curbs and have relatively little speed loss as a result. But now we see the 92 car being passed by, again, new livery. Got to get used to these new faces. But again, it moves all over the track. I mean, the guys have spread out. There's still action happening all over. There's Garrett Hall now looking to the inside of the 92 car. I think Garrett Hall, who qualified quite high up the order, got an incident there at the beginning and is now having to do a recovery drive, and a quite successful one by the looks of it to this point.
Yeah, Hall there making a good pass, and following him is the 99 car of Brandon Jackson that qualified quite well as well, and now all the way back down in 18th position. Hall right in front of him, of course, in 17th. See them trying to catch the 36 car of Corey Shepard and the 94 car of Hunter Henry, who were having a little bit of a battle for 15th position. Henry's sitting cleanly in 15th position right now, though, but the 36 of Shepard right on his tail.
Just a heads up that Cody Welch, a guy that was having a successful race to this point, and I guess still is. I believe he still currently runs in the top 5, but he went off in one of the later sections in the infield there, now just getting back onto the oval. So I believe, cannot confirm this yet, but I believe Curtis Michaelis will have made the pass there for 4th, and it looks like he has. So one more position for the 07 car, and Cody Welch, one little mistake is going to put him at the very end of the top 5.
Yeah, really good run for that 07 car, and I'm not exactly sure how many races that he has been in this season. That's some information that I will try and see if I can grab. See, so far he has only been in one race. He was here last week at Las Vegas, didn't have the race that he would have liked to have. Started 29th, finished 28th, but only had 6 incidents all race, and that's really something to... The way that this season has gone, Las Vegas was a fairly clean track, but it's fairly good anywhere to only have 6 incidents all race with the way that this season has gone. But obviously coming out and really showing out here at the Daytona road course.
And it is really interesting because depending on your background, it might just come naturally to you. So we'll have to see if the result tonight for Michaelis, at least to this point in the race, we'll have to see if it carries over from the rest of the season. But what a battle we're having here. Coming out of the bus stop, 2 cars going to go side by side. That's the 76 going side by side alongside. Again, we're going to have to watch this battle from a different angle. Got to get used to the car numbers again. But yeah, again, all sorts of cars jammed up in this section of the track, and if we get a side-by-side into this particular chicane, we're going to have troubles. Catches a little bit of the curb, going to slide through, going to have to go around that final curving piece there. He's going to actually hit into the pits, must have damage of some sort, but got to think he would have had a time penalty either way going around the inside of that boulevard.
Yeah, 76 car of Mark Allen Bivens in his Camaro heading into the pits right now. And another driver sitting in 7th position right now that's had a fairly good race so far, the 04 car of Brett Guzik. I don't believe he started too far up front. I can't exactly remember, but a good run from him right now, sitting in 7th position. And right behind him, 7 car of Benjamin Lacey, who obviously he did well at Long Beach too, and showing what he can do here at the Daytona road course.
Yeah, specifically Lacey had started 11th, Guzik had started 12th, so only up a couple spots, but really here to this point in the race, just about a quarter of the way through the event, that's a significant amount of time and a significant effort for sure. So great work by these 2 guys, but a great battle happening. But that is the 80 car of Tyler Rowland. Not too much damage and gets the car rolling, you could say, but it's back up to speed and back on track. Didn't take too much damage, but again, that bus stop can be trickier than it looks when guys like Nick Nickerson run through it.
Yeah, definitely trouble for that car. And also trouble for the 8 car of Kevin Foster as well, off track for a minute for him. Back on track now, though, and running 22nd, so not too bad. We saw him a little bit higher than this earlier, but sitting in 22nd position right now. Definitely good for the couple of incidents that he already has in tonight's race and missing some of those body panels.
Just trying to look throughout the field and see if I can pick out a biggest mover of the race so far. A notable one to mention might be Hunter Henry, who has moved up 18 spots from the start of tonight's event. He was 33rd when the green flag flew, and now has dropped back to still a very successful 15th. So great work tonight from Hunter Henry. He's finding success all over the track, and really that speaks to 18 cars. Even if that's a lot of guys diving out of your way in incidents, that's still a significant amount of progress to make. So Hunter Henry, pat on the back for yourself, and he is very close to the back end of Curtis Weaver there in the number 23, so his success tonight may not be over.
Yeah, definitely looking to make the move, but right behind him, the 36 of Corey Shepard, looking to make a move on him in that all-pro Camaro.
Whoa, had to save the back end there. Came out with a little bit too much speed, and now going to come through this tight left-hand kink, which is very different running behind cars than it is running by oneself, but everybody makes it through cleanly. Yes, still keeping it right on the back end of the 94, but now about an even interval between 2 almost identical yellow cars between either end of Hunter Henry. He's going to go wide again, so looks like, yeah, the number 36 car of Corey Shepard really pushing that car to its limits right on the back bumper, though. The 23 comes Henry. He's going to look to the inside, going to go side by side as we come back onto the oval. I think Henry will have the better run, though the outside is traditionally faster. Right on the apron there. He should be able to stay side by side coming up to the bus stop, but I don't think either driver will be able to clear.
Yeah, Hunter Henry, 25 years old, racing out of Georgia, and so far this season he has one top 10. But like you said, running in 15th position and definitely working his way up. Biggest mover of the race, like you said, and wouldn't surprise me to see him move up more the way he's running right now here after lap 10 of 40 at the Daytona road course. And speaking of that, as I look down at my screen, trouble for a couple of drivers. Cale Zook, Corey Shepard, and Cody Welch. One of the biggest names there, the 85 of Cody Welch, into the grass.
Yeah, Cody Welch again, a guy that at his best is one of the quickest out here. You saw the lap he put down in qualifying, and you saw how quick he was in the first couple laps, but he's had a couple slip-ups like that to this point now, and just got to hope that going forward he'll learn from the mistakes, figure out what he did in terms of maybe gearing or in terms of the speed he was coming into a corner with, and he'll make the changes for the rest of the 30 laps of this race to make sure it doesn't happen again before the end.
Yeah, another driver getting a little loose. The 10 car there of Matt Crockett. I believe he's a lap down now. But just a little, he's already had a little bit of trouble today running a special paint scheme since it is March 10th, running a Mario paint scheme. There you see him getting lapped by the 7 car of Benjamin Lacey. And I feel like we haven't talked about him as much for as well as he's doing, but the 2 car of Nick Nickerson just out in front of the field. Of course, Nick Nickerson driving the Ford from Phoenix, Arizona. Winner at Long Beach and has 3 top 5s on the season. He's looking to get his second win tonight. There you saw the 32 of Terry Condis in the grass just a little bit, but Nickerson now 23 seconds ahead of second place and 27 seconds ahead of third. A full minute ahead of 9th place when you go down, and there you see he's lapping another car right now. That car, the 90 of Marshall Moran, going a lap down. So far, he has put everyone except for the top 25 1 lap down.
Yeah, Marshall Moran did a great job there to let him by through a tricky section of the infield, and if that continues, guys are going to be very sure to move out of the way for him, or at least if that's the case, Nick's night is going to get a lot easier. But certainly, you got to think he's going to have another pit stint. If he pits for tires, then he's got to worry about cold tires in the first couple laps with that combination of trying to pass lap cars. So this night is by no means over. I know we're very early into the race, but still plenty of potential for things to go wrong. Brett Guzik, we now see in the 04 car exiting the pit lane as we speak, hits the outside pit wall. For the first car I've seen do that all day, but a very common occurrence. I know I did it in a much more downforced car at the 24 Hours of Daytona this year. So I can't imagine with the NASCAR going full speed in a race setting how tough it would be to keep that thing off the pit wall.
Yeah, I know when I practiced, that was the first thing that I did getting out. I just misjudged that pit out lane and got into the pit wall very first thing that I did, but obviously some trouble there for the 04 car. But the reason we went to him is he's the first car that I saw come into the pits. And speaking of coming into the pits, here's the 2 car of Nick Nickerson on his way onto pit road.
And this is a really interesting move here by our leader because, you'd think at this point, he probably going to come in for a one-stopper. I would have thought on fuel, at least if the fuel was what I was expecting. But, chances are this more likely looks like a 2-stopper. So I'm thinking that, yeah, if this is where Nick is pitting this early, probably not going to take risks here on strategy. It's probably just like, well, let's make the safe play. So if the safe play is to pit this early, well, we may see a lot more in the near future. And right as I say it, there is Curtis Yancey, sits second coming in, and may not, depending whether Ricky Hart comes in as well. He does. So all of your race leaders now are just going to kind of follow in behind our leader strategy, and looks like we'll wait a little bit longer to see some interesting pit strategy later in the race.
Yeah, also the 07 car of Curtis Michaelis, the 85 Cody Welch, the 7 of Benjamin Lacey, and the 80 of Tyler Rowland, all heading in. Here's the 88 car of Benny Hogan, the first car that is not heading in. And he will jump up a couple spots now, up to 4th now for Benny Hogan. Nick Nickerson so far ahead, though, that even after pitting, didn't lose a position.
Yeah, anything short of him having an actual spin is going to mean that, well, more than likely, unless he makes a mistake, this is going to be an all Nick Nickerson laps led kind of night. I don't see guys on pit strategy even, trying to long pit him, being able to make up a full lap led to get a bonus point unless he makes a significant mistake.
And now a couple more guys coming into pit road. There's the 99 of Brandon Jackson in his stall. Jason Greenwell, Christopher Farrar, Kevin Foster, Peter Murphy, Trey Ellis, and James R. Hartley all on pit road right now. Here we're looking at the 7 of Benjamin Lacey and a little bit of a battle right here for 9th position. Lacey in 9th, Tyler Rowland in the 80 car looking to take that position away from him.
We watched Tyler Rowland's earlier issue there in the bus stop where he got a little bit wide and caught a little piece of the outside wall. We'll see if he's going to be a little bit more gun shy there as a result of that, but he sends it nice and tight there through the corner, keeps it right on the inside curbing. He is getting aggressive there on the back end of Benjamin Lacey. Now we can back onto the oval. Both guys carrying a lot of speed, but making it work. Great lines by both of them, but maybe Benjamin Lacey did not get it to work. Going to go a little bit too wide. The 80 car is going to peek underneath, going to go side by side through the NASCAR 1 and 2. Coming up towards the bus stop. This is a great passing zone, but the 80 car definitely wants to clear the 7 if he can. That way he can take the more optimal line into the bus stop entry.
Yeah, and he does. So the 80 car up high, but the 7 car going to push the envelope down low through the braking zone and thinks better of it. Gets a little higher. The 80 through the grass just a little bit, though. Not worried about it. Able to miss the turtles and back up onto the bank portion of the track.
Yeah, you can definitely afford to get a little bit of grass on the entry. Definitely can on the exit. You want to make sure you avoid those turtle curbs at all cost. And he did. Jarek Grudzicki and Benny Hogan have switched spots, but I believe they are both coming into the pits at the same time. So Grudzicki passing Benny Hogan on pit entry. That'll make it a little bit easier there once they come out. So the 75 and the 88 on pit road, meaning that your top 4 before we pitted have now moved back into the top 4, and so has Cody Welch. And now the top 5 pre-pit are now your top 5 post-pit. Cody Welch is going to slide through corner number 1. Got to get the back end around again. Cody Welch really quick, but he's had a couple struggles here in the beginning of a couple stints. Now going to go side by side with what I believe is a lap car. I think that is Brett Guzik, who is battling for position. So this just got significantly more interesting for Cody Welch.
Yeah, Brett Guzik in that 04 car. I'm sure he was happy to see that as we saw a car going around there. I believe that was the 10 of Matt Crockett around, and just a little bit more trouble for that 10 car today. He definitely hasn't had the day that he wanted to, and just more trouble for him. But as we head back to that battle up front, Brett Guzik sitting in 6th position, Welch right in front of him there in 5th, and Guzik doing everything he can to catch up to him. Here, 13 laps down of 40.
Yeah, this battle's still continuing, though. Guzik is keeping it nice and close there as we come through the infield. Now he's going to get a nice slipstream there if he can stay in behind on Cody Welch. There's going to be a little bit of a bubble formed in this year's NASCAR package, or I guess this is actually one of the older setups. But definitely not going to be close to get right behind him, and you almost don't want to be to pass him through the bus stop. But you just want to be close enough that if you do get a really good exit through the bus stop corner, that you can get the run on Cody Welch. You need to make the move there in that next chicane in this lap. Just keeping an eye here in the background. I've kind of got like a Nick Nickerson update cam set up for your race leader, because really, as we talked about before, the only thing that'll make this battle for the lead interesting is if something goes wrong for the 2 car. And not only did he have to get by a couple lap cars who almost locked up into him, I think just pitted on cold tires, and as a result had a pretty bad lockup right behind him in the chicane. But additionally, we've got some guys a little ways up ahead. You see right in front of him in the shot now that are real close to the front. So you got to have a lot of trust in these cars and your fellow drivers if you're Nick Nickerson. But sometimes that is easier said than done when the pace gap is just so significant from you to them.
Yeah, Nick Nickerson right now, he knows that he can run fast. Obviously the fastest driver on the racetrack right now, but now's the time when he's really not trying to drive fast. He's just trying to drive safe and hold that lead that he's got and do everything that he can to stay out of the way of these lap cars. As you saw, one lap car there right in front of him missed the chicane, and another one sideways right in front of him. So it really shows how lap cars can get in the way. Just because he's that far ahead doesn't mean he's out in the clear right now. We're not even halfway through here at Daytona.
Yeah, we are not. We still got a whole nother pit cycle to go, which is going to make things interesting once again. But until we get some more lap cars, which up ahead looks like smooth sailing for the time being for Nick Nickerson. looks like he is going to be comfortable for the next little while until the next car on track that has yet to be passed, which I believe is Curtis Weaver there in the 23.
Yeah, and heading back to this battle, still looks the same between the 04 of Guzik and the 85 of Cody Welch. Those guys just hanging into 5th and 6th position right now. Trouble for the 7 car, though, of Benjamin Lacey. Off the track just a little bit, seems to have recovered it fairly well, though, still sitting in 8th position. And that 7 car of Benjamin Lacey in points right now, sitting 5th in points without a win. So Garrett Hall, your current points leader without a win, but Benjamin Lacey sitting 2nd in points without a win. So obviously okay to make it into the next round of the championship, but he's really hoping that he can work his way up there and advance into the championship on a win. That way he doesn't have to worry about getting in on points.
Yeah, but you alluded to it pre-race there, Evan, with 12 spots to go with guys that don't have wins but have enough points to make it in. That's quite a few spots. So at a certain point, it almost becomes interesting to think that you're sitting 2nd in the non-winners points. You've got Garrett Hall ahead of you, but really I think you're caring more about a win than being the number 1 guy outside of the winners bracket when it comes to the championship. So he's got some room to work with. I think it would be tough as a driver to have that mental battle with yourself to say, okay, do I chill here in 8th, which is still a very impressive spot in tonight's race. But if you're a driver, you want more, especially as Benjamin Lacey has showed the pace that he does have on the high end, kind of similar to Cody Welch, where he can make a slip up every once in a while. But when he's hot, and it is going for him. So we'll see if maybe he has that mentality, or for the rest of the race, he's thinking, no, I'd rather just, wait a little bit, stick with the points, as you say, stay in 2nd for now, guarantee a championship berth. And if you're somebody who doesn't like the road courses as much, that's probably not a bad goal to come out with. And to say that you're just where you were when you started, when you came out, when you're somebody who doesn't like road courses, as Benjamin may not, that's not a bad day at the office if you ask somebody like that.
Yeah, he's definitely had a good day no matter what. As long as you finish in the top 15 here, I would consider that you had a good day, but maybe that's just because I am not that big of a fan of road courses. But yeah, taking so many drivers into the championship standings, though, of course, like I said, you've got to want that win, but who knows, he may be thinking more on the point side. So definitely either way, looking to make the championship one way or another. Heading back up to the front, though, I think it's really interesting now. Nick Nickerson with a 30-second lead on the 2nd place of Yancey, a 39-second lead on the 3rd place of Hart, and then from there back almost a minute, then 5th place and back a minute lead back to those cars. So such a huge lead for him as the 2 of Nick Nickerson seem to get a little bit loose. There you can see on the Skype camera a little bit of a smile there from Nick.
Yeah, Nick's just chilling. He's getting a beverage. He's having a great time. He just gets through the oval, which is kind of just him waiting to do the thing he's really good at. You do spend a lot of this track just going, okay, car, come on, get to the next corner. And once you've run 15 laps with 25 to go as we have here, you start to settle into a groove. And at this point, you see Nick just looking comfortable, not looking too stressed about it. And that's I talked about it. It was the most kind of my key to the race. The most important thing was just comfort. And it does not get much more comfortable than a guy taking a drink mid straightaway here at a track like Daytona Road Course.
Yeah, Nick Nickerson, that 2 car, just having a good time so far. But if we come back, Brett Guzik keeps gaining on the 85 car of Cody Welch. Every lap he seems to be gaining just a little bit more, eking up on the back end of the 85 Camaro.
And I think really, you see as he just barely heads off the outside grass there, I think the thing he's got to be doing is just waiting for another mistake from Welch. I mean, he's had a couple of small ones, and really, if I'm Guzik, I don't want to force the issue here at a track like Daytona Road Course where there's so many tough passing opportunities that you're going to have to take a risk to make one. I'd rather just say, okay, let's wait for the guy in front of me to make a mistake. Let's just do what I know how to do. And Brett's looked pretty consistent so far, but now that Cody has kind of gotten into a groove and into a rhythm since that last trouble, yeah, he looks comfortable, and so does Brett. So we'll see which guy makes a mistake first and which streak of no incidents ends first.
Yeah, Brett from Pottstown, Pennsylvania, with 1 top 5 on the year. In his position, what he wants to do, he wants to push the issue, but not too much. He wants that car in front of him, that 85 car of Cody Welch. He wants to see that he's back there. He wants the 85 to know that he's right behind him. but he doesn't want to put himself in any danger. You know, he just wants to be behind the 85 just enough that it gets Welch off his game, just a little bit enough to make a mistake, you know. Then we look at Cody Welch, and he's kind of out here just to have fun almost. Driver of the 85, won at Lucas Oil and has 2 top 5s on the season. That win at Lucas Oil, it's got him good for the championship right now, so he doesn't have to worry about anything. He's just out here racing to have fun. Of course, you're racing for your pride, I guess, doing everything that you can, but he's just out here with that win just to have fun.
And that's almost a good approach to come in with, is as I talked about earlier with the comfort aspect, to just not be very stressed taking each corner and with your approach to the race. I think to know that you're locked into the championship, to know you're just doing this, as you said, for fun, to test yourself, to see how well you can do at a track that is very, you know, untraditional or unconventional compared to the rest of the calendar. I think it's good to try to, you know, have that mindset of, okay, I'm just going to work within the vacuum of this race. All that matters is how I do here for my own self and my own happiness, and past that, it doesn't matter how you do. So he's probably going to be more willing to take those risks, whereas a guy like a Brett Guzik, who hasn't quite punched his ticket officially yet, may not be able to take those same chances.
Yeah, and one thing that, if you guys are looking at the YouTube chat, then you noticed it, but driver of the 10 car, Matt Crockett, commented, said that his computer crashed while he was gridding. Dog hit his power strip. Said he lost too much time and he kept spinning. Definitely easy to do here at Daytona, but unfortunate any time that your computer loses power when you're either before a race or in the middle of the race. So definitely unfortunate for that 10 car. Definitely had a good looking paint scheme tonight with the Mario paint scheme. Unfortunate that he couldn't stay out there too much longer. Now sitting in 35th position. Oh, and a big slide there.
Curtis Yancey. Yeah, that was fun to watch. That's a guy just staying sharp, and that's the thing that over the course of the run, I was curious to see if guys would lose. Is you got to keep the hands moving there to save the car in some of these situations, but you have to be smart about it. You can't just start waving him back and forth, getting the wheel all jerky. You got to make some like subtle but you know, rapid movements. And over the course of a longer run, if you start to doze off there, just driving by yourself like the 51 car is, you might start to lose that sense. But Curtis Yancey, man, he's making it work. He's not losing focus, and he is chugging away. Still sitting in second, is losing probably a second a lap to Nick Nickerson. But compared to Nick Nickerson, of course, one of the best NASCAR oval drivers I've ever seen, that is not a bad margin to be losing whatsoever.
Yeah, and we didn't see, but I saw that there was a little bit of trouble for the driver of the 26 car, Garrett Hall. The H&M Motorsports Black Lives Matter Mustang. See a good bit of damage for that 26, but still running in 12th position. A good run for him so far. Right now, the driver with the most points without a win. But even though a little bit of damage on that car, still able to hold it good there in 12th position.
Yeah, he's another one of those guys that once he's had a little bit of adversity here to this point in the race, probably just wants to calm down and say, okay, well, let's focus on the championship. Let's just try to keep the car under me. And since those earlier incidents, he's done just that. But now we go back to this battle here between Trey Ellis. Trying to remember who those two cars ahead of him are. One of them is Shepard, and one of them is Curtis Weaver. So Weaver and Shepard going to go side by side. The two almost identical looking like highlighter Sharpie liveries there, but going to go to the inside is Trey Ellis. Nice move there into turn number one. You don't see many guys making passes there in a corner that is as tough on oversteer as that one is. Keeps the back end under him. Looks like guys they got their tires up to temp. They got more grip than they had earlier. And Ellis kind of washed through the corner, left a little bit too much of the inside open, so Weaver might take advantage. This is the battle for 21st as we speak. And Curtis Yancey sitting there in second just has to avoid it and do his very best to stay out of the way.
Yeah, that really shows you what you have to deal with some of the lap cars here, because Curtis Yancey, he was all alone just a second ago when we watched him, and right now trying to snake his way through traffic, and Nick Nickerson in front of him doing the same thing. You can really see how difficult it is to get through traffic here. And like I said, even if you're out front, it doesn't mean that you're in the clear. And as of right now, 1 through 12 on the lead lap. Everyone else at least one lap down.
So just kind of, doing the rough approximate math here, based on how many guys he's passed. Nickerson is on on pace to pass everybody for a lap, save from Curtis Yancey and Ricky Hart. So only the top 3 would be on the lead lap to the end, which I believe, Evan, is a tie of what we had at Long Beach. I think he either got 3 or 4 guys left on the lead lap. So, Nick, I want to see if I'm him at this point. You got to challenge yourself, man. I want to see you passing more guys, putting more guys a lap down each race. Otherwise, I'd consider even a win this dominant a failure at this point. I have very high standards for Nick, so I want to see him, come on, just push for this pace, try to lap Ricky Hart, and see if you can push it down one by one at each road course race.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing, though, as I pull up our last lap times up here on the board, Nick Nickerson, his last time was a 1:59.10. Curtis Yancey in second, his last lap, over 2 seconds, or over 2 minutes, and then Ricky Hart Jr. with a 1:59.85. So that could be because the 51 car of Yancey was in a little bit of traffic that last lap, but nevertheless, quick lap times for the 64 car of Ricky Hart Jr. sitting there in third. He's a good bit behind Curtis Yancey, but still some fast lap times for him, and who knows, by the time that this race is over, if he can keep up that trend, he may be able to take away second position from the 51 car.
Yeah, I think almost more interesting than that Hart was faster than Yancey was that he was almost as fast as Nickerson. I mean, we'll have to see when Yancey finishes his lap and hopefully gets one without too much lap traffic in front of him, how that'll change things. We see Trey Ellis there moving out of the way for the 64 car. But yeah, Ricky Hart running only 0.8 slower than your race leaders. So that is not a bad margin whatsoever. And if he can keep that going through the rest of the race, looks like we are going to have to stick with at least 3 drivers on the lead lap because, whoa, you see there, right, perfect time to go to the camera. You see Ricky happen to make that save there on exit. Got a little bit too wide, got across the curb there into some of that little bit slidier racing surface. So was able to make the save there. You saw his hands get moving and now settles back into a much more comfortable rhythm there. But yeah, you can almost see by body language here when we watch this camera here on board with Ricky Hart that when we watched Nick Nickerson earlier, he just looks chill. He just looks laid back, whereas Ricky Hart looks much more, aware, much more awake, and much more alert. But certainly, whoa, we see a car there jumping one of those big sausage curbs there. That aggressive, bit of steering there to have to avoid, and now he's going to go by Curtis Weaver. But you kind of get the vibe that he's more alert, but he looks slightly less, comfortable and one with the car, you could say, than Nick does. Maybe not in general. I mean, Ricky was last season's champion for a reason, but Nick Nickerson is in a different category here at these road courses. Whereas Ricky Hart, he's doing his best. I'm really impressed with what I've seen from the defending champion tonight.
Yeah, Nick Nickerson definitely as comfortable as anybody that I have seen on any time I have ever seen anyone on road courses. Nick Nickerson, the most comfortable that I've seen. And one guy that I want to go ahead and highlight for a second, Brandon Jackson, driver of the 99 cars, worked his way all the way back up to 10th position. You saw he started up high, but then he had that trouble, but able to work his way back. And let's go ahead and pull up that foot cam again for the Iowa driver with 3 top 5s on the season, running the number 99 Bleacher Report Ford Mustang. And just right now, right as we pull this up, 2 drivers coming onto pit road. The 85 car of Cody Welch pitting from 5th, and the 04 car of Brett Guzik pitting from 6th position. So a couple guys taking their second stops already halfway through this race at the Bandit, or halfway through this race at the Geezer Authentics 40 from the Daytona Road Course.
Yeah, so again, if we're going to pit at this pace, then logistically, it's likely that we're going to do a 3-stopper. So I came in thinking we were going to do maybe 1. I hadn't quite taken into account just how much the 60% was off the fuel load. But yeah, that almost guarantees we're going to have a 3-stopper. So I'm curious to see if Nick Nickerson, mimics that same philosophy, or if he waits a little bit to come in for his lap, which would, if he doesn't pit within the next probably 1 or 2 laps, chances are it'll probably be a 2-lap race for the rest of the field. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, still with Brandon Jackson, I think it's interesting to watch his feet in some of these corners. It'll be interesting to see what he does here. Opts for a pretty strong lift there. You see through that left-hander, and it's quite wide, that little kink in the infield. But you saw there just how much he had to woe it up and keep the car flat. He is doing his very best to keep the car under him rather than really push the car, and it's working for him. He's already up to 7th, which is considerably ahead of where he was sitting earlier when he had that mistake on the first lap. So great recovery from Brandon Jackson, and from a guy who's already won this season, it is probably what you'd expect.
Yeah, and one good thing that Matt Crockett mentioned that I feel like is a very important detail is that these drivers only have one set of tires in the pits to grab. So even though they may be taking 3 stops, they can only take tires one time, or at least they can only take 4 tires one time. If they wanted to, they could take left sides one time, right sides one time. They could do something like that. But if they want to come in and take 4 tires, they can only do that one time.
Yeah, with the lack of a caution, like a full course caution mechanic being called, you probably wouldn't save them for the end as some guys might strategize for in real life. So the fact that we don't have cautions means more than likely you're probably just going to try to split it down the middle. Whoever just pitted there at the halfway point probably took them. I think Nick, if he does pit in the next couple laps, probably going to take him then, because you might as well just split the race in half, try to get your tire wear at the same at different points in the race. And now we see that is Michaelis there in the 07 car. He is, I think he went and slid through his pit box a little bit, so we'll see if that plays an effect with other guys trying the overcut on him and maybe passing him for position. But for the time being, he is still comfortably in fourth. Well, now he's passed by Lacey and Jackson. But again, the 07 car having a very comfortable night to this point, and there is your race leader coming down pit road.
Yeah, and another thing that Matt Crockett brought up here in the chat, 10 to 15 laps is what a fuel load is for these guys, or that's what a fuel run is. So it all just depends on how hard you're really running the car. Nick Nickerson, I'm sure he can only get 10 laps per fuel load, whereas somebody that's in the back, somebody that's running slower lap times, they could stretch it out to something like 15. But this is probably one of those times where Nick Nickerson on older tires, and even though he can run a lot faster, you're going to see him with some slower lap times and able to make that fuel load or that fuel stint last as long as he possibly can. They're getting into the cone a little bit as he heads off pit road.
Bringing it with him. He's still got it there on the front. Hasn't quite slid off there yet. But yeah, to your point there, the way that Nick spends fuel, similar to other drivers, or I guess dissimilar in some cases, I think it really comes down to his line in a lot of corners. And you see there just how tight he cuts the left-hand kink there. How his entry to the bus stop is interesting, because he enters much further on the bottom. He tries to woe it up more and tries to take it more like a straight line. Doesn't do as much of an outside in on the bus stop, which over the course of a long race probably doesn't seem that significant over the course of a lap. But those little changes can definitely save you enough fuel that if you were going to push the border between, okay, I can run 15 laps in this stint or I can run 16, Nick might be pushing 16 on more of those stints than other guys. So maybe, just maybe, if he can conserve enough fuel and he feels like going for it, he could go for the for no stops for the rest of the race. But again, 10 to 15 feels like that kind of range where even a guy like Nick Nickerson should probably just focus on going flat out and coming in for that one more stop, especially with the 43-second buffer he's got to Yancey.
Yeah, I feel like Nick Nickerson at this point, he has so much of a buffer that he could probably take an extra stop compared to everybody else, and he'd still be good to go to the end. So you might as well get all the fuel that you can packed into that car and not take any chances anywhere with, like you said, a 44-second buffer now back to second place. And a couple more cars on pit road, the 99 of Brandon Jackson, also the 7 of Lacey, and the 75 of Jarek Grodzicki, all on pit road. So far, the highest up driver that has not come in for a second pit stop, the 26 car of Garrett Hall, sitting in 7th position, and also the 94 sitting in 10th position, has also not come in for his second pit stop yet. The 13 of Christopher Ferrara in now.
Yeah, and if Garrett Hall is able to keep this car on track maybe one more lap, we could have the interesting question of, can he make it on fuel if he pits on lap 15? I mean, we just saw in the chat there, we got a bit of an audible there from Matt Crockett saying it's about a 10 to 15 lap fuel window. And if that's the case, and Garrett really wants to go for it, as he seems to be able to, because he hasn't burned up much fuel to this point. So if he's able to push it maybe one more lap and really go for it, might be able to gain maybe 25, 30 seconds total, skipping a pit stop, which to cycle around the guys around him, especially seeing as he was in the same boat as Brandon Jackson, who was also in a recovery drive earlier. That would be quite the comeback for the number 26 car and our current points leader, discounting those who have won a race.
Yeah, Garrett definitely, he may see that opportunity right there, and that may be the best thing that he can do. It's really a risk versus reward situation, and being the points leader, he has a lot to gain, a lot to lose, so he could do it. And I would say that he's so good at the rest of the tracks. I feel like the rest of the tracks that we have this season, he ought to be so good that he shouldn't be able to worry about the points. Right now he has 207 points. And the last guy that is going to get in on points has 156 points. So about 50 points ahead of the cutoff right now. And he's definitely a good enough driver that he can keep himself up there at the road tracks. As there you see he's coming in right now with 17 laps to go. So we'll see if this is going to be his final stop or if he's going to decide to go one more.
Yeah, I think that'll just be barely too early, knowing my understanding of how he's done his stops to this point. I mean, 24 laps in means he split them 12 apiece, so probably going to be a little bit too much of an ask to think to go that far, but it's a possibility. And now with Nick Nickerson, it'll be interesting to see what he does. I think at this point he's almost guaranteed himself a one stop. I don't see why he would do otherwise. And one thing I want to give props to before we go on later, and I'm sure we'll mention it again at some point, but I just want to give a props to the lap traffic we've seen at this race tonight. Like, whenever I go to one of these cameras, I've had one on Nick Nickerson for quite a while. I keep checking, like, Curtis Yancey, Ricky Hart. Anytime they've come up on a group of lap traffic, even if they're in the middle of a battle, guys are very certain to get out of the way, try to keep a different line, but they're still able to continue racing competitively if they're racing in a group. So I've been really impressed with what we've seen so far from everybody, and now we're going to go on board with Mr. I believe it's Tyler Rowland there in the 80 car, sitting just behind Brandon Jackson. So another battle on track. But yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to the rest of the field who have made it very easy for the leaders to keep doing what they're doing tonight.
Yeah, that's one thing that Matt Crockett also said in the YouTube chat. If you're looking at that, a lot of great communication going on between the lap cars and the lead lap cars. And I'll just go ahead and give the shout out from him and from myself as well. Great job, drivers. So definitely great job to anybody. Any of y'all that are listening to this live or any of y'all that are watching the replay, good job to any of you guys that are driving for communicating so well. Other than the front or the beginning of the race was a little bit messy, but after that everything cleaned up, and so far it's been a really good race.
It has, and I think one thing that's interesting to think about is how this race here at Daytona Road Course is going to compare to the rest of the road courses this season, because for the most part we've had the same guys succeeding here as we did earlier this year at Long Beach. Now this is Cody Welch trying to run away from Brett Guzik, who he's just passed in the 04 car, who he's just ahead of rather than just made the move on. But yeah, he was great there earlier this season at Long Beach, and he's been quick here tonight. But guys like the 07 and Michael, that's a guy that we haven't really thought about too much this season. I know Brandon Jackson appears to be more comfortable here than he looked at Long Beach. So maybe when we head to one of these more traditional road courses rather than the street course outlier of Long Beach, maybe when we go to Road America later this season, this is more so the style of racing we'll see there. And it really indicates who is going to be quick late in the season when a road course race like this is not just important for points, but is important for the entire championship battle as a whole.
Yeah, speaking of that, we've definitely got some interesting tracks coming up. Next week we're going to be at Auto Club, which is just a really fun track, the way that you can run the high line, the middle line, the low line. There's just so many places that you can run. We'll be running 200 miles there at Auto Club. Then after that we head to Phoenix, which is just a really fun track and an oddly shaped track. Then after that, the short track of Five Flags, so 150 laps there, only 75 miles. Then before too long, we're at Darlington, where we're running 183 laps, which is going to be 250 miles long. And then we've got the Roval, which ought to be a really interesting track, sort of, I don't know, a really fun track, but a different road course. And then a really different road course, as the next to last race is going to be Road America.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to know what guys are thinking of some of those later races, and just as you talk about, even if they're ovals, which may not be my neck of the woods, not stuff that I run quite as often. There are some really interesting picks there on that list. Auto Club next week, you talked about there with the different groups. That's going to be fun. That's going to be one of those ones it'll allow for some great racing. It'll allow for guys of all sorts of disciplines and attitudes. But now we go live to the 7-car Benjamin Lacey. Just very recently got put a lap down, and now significant damage to the front nose of that number 7 car.
Yeah, big trouble there for Lacey. So we're going to head to the replay, see if we can see what happens as he dives down into this bus stop.
Whoa.
I would assume old tires there, just got on the gas a little bit too quick and in the wall there, losing his front clip. Able to regain it, though, sitting in 12th position right now for the 7 car of Lacey.
Still on track, though, quite interestingly, which either says to me that he's used his quick repair earlier in the race, or he is just not really affected by the changes. So, I mean, pit stops take a long time, and Lacey, though he will lose some spots, still sitting in a fairly impressive 12. Like, that's nothing to scoff at. So if it's not broken, I mean, as the old saying goes, don't fix it. But let's keep an eye here on Curtis Yancey and Ricky Hart. I may have, like, lost something for a second, but when did Ricky make all that time up? Did something happen under under pit stops, or did that just happen over the course of a few laps?
Yeah, I really don't know. The last time I looked, that 64 car was a good bit back, so a really good job for the 64 car to catch up to the 51 as much as he did.
I almost think it's got to have been a Yancey mistake at some point, though, because not only have they caught up to each other, but they've dropped way back of Nick Nickerson as a group. I mean, Yancey was only like, 38 seconds back a minute ago, and now almost a minute. This is pushing towards the possibility that, they may be one of Nick Nickerson's lap down victims later in the race if the pace continues. But for now, we just got to watch this battle because, you see him in the same camera shot, and that's the first time we've said that about the driver sitting in second and third since the very beginning when the green flag flew.
Yeah, and you can see Ricky Hart Jr. there in VR working his wheel, working those paddle shifters here on the road course from Cape May, New Jersey. 36 years old, the winner at Atlanta, and 4 top 10s on the season. So a great season from that 64 car, and sitting in third position right now, looking to improve that.
One thing just important to mention, looking at this battle between that is Cody Welch and Brett Guzik, just keeping an eye on it for now. Guzik has now made the pass here on Cody Welch, so nice move there in the infield. But also important to mention that Curtis Michaelis, who is trying to chase those two down in the 07 car, did go off track just a minute ago. Made it back on relatively quickly and just washed out a little bit wide in that turn 4 hairpin. But all sorts of stuff happening now in this midfield. And again, Guzik and Welch have swapped back and forth a couple times, so I would not be surprised if we saw yet another change in the next couple minutes.
Yet another driver that we just saw off track, the driver of the 84 car of David Leakey. He seems to have gained it back now and doesn't look like there's too much damage to that 84 car, but we saw him off track there for just a second. The 36-year-old from Greenville, Kentucky, 4 race starts on the season in his Mustang and sitting in 18th position right now. So I believe he's gained 5 positions from the start. Not exactly sure, but doing good to sit in 18th position right now, even though he just got off the track.
Yeah, it would have been 5 spots from the beginning there when he sat 18th. It looks like on my screen he has gained a couple spots on this lap, so making some improvements there. I'm really happy with what I've seen from, recovery drives from a lot of drivers tonight. Whoa, he's going to slide through the final chicane there. He's going to take a cone with him. Going to either pull into the pits or going to pull to a full stop to let that time penalty run out. He did come to a full stop to serve it rather than just kind of slowing down, which is interesting, but wanted to make very sure that he cleared it. But yeah, some great recovery drives from guys tonight. I'm impressed that when guys make a mistake and have to get back on track to recover, that they don't just kind of give up and stop moving. They're doing their very best to come back and get as many spots as they can, and that's something we've seen from even guys like Cody Welch, who again, as quick as he's been, has made a couple mistakes tonight. And even though Guzik did just make the move a minute ago, he's staying with him, and the gap between Guzik and Welch is almost identical to the gap between Welch and Michaelis behind him. So keep an eye on the 4th, 5th, and 6th positions.
Yeah, Welch definitely isn't too far behind and doing a good job to stay there sitting in 5th. Obviously a good road course driver in the 85 car. And back in 7th now, Brandon Jackson just slowly working his way up here. I know that he raced in the 24 at Daytona, so he definitely knows this track a little bit, along with being such a good driver here of these Xfinity cars. So definitely helps him out, but unfortunate that he got the damage there at the beginning, but such a great job to be all the way back up to 7th now after that, even though he is now the first car 1 lap down.
And I can tell you firsthand, talking about that experience of running at this track and other things. I mean, the Daytona 24, you spent so many laps running around this track. I think in mine, I spent just under 200 consecutive laps over the course of 24 hours running at this track. So you almost get sick of it after a while, but that's what you want to adapt. I mean, Brandon's got a leg up on me. He understood the Xfinity car before he tested this week, and I can imagine that combination of knowing the track knowing the layout, being comfortable with it, besides, of course, the newly added chicane, as well as his knowledge of the car would come in handy. But there is Brett Guzik has gone off the track, giving Curtis Michaelis the final top 5 spot. But yeah, Brett Guzik, the thing that was serving him so well tonight is he made so few mistakes. But right here, you see in that final chicane, we saw a moment ago, somebody slide through it as well, and maybe just caught too much of the outside curb. Or no, in an attempt to avoid it, looks like he lost the back end, just tried to do a hard right-hand flick to get it in the corner, and as a result, lost the back end, though he was able to avoid cars. But you see just how big of a bump he takes over that sausage curb. iRacing's damage model, I don't think will have that mean too much damage for him, but man, that looked like a harsh bump, and that should give you just as good of an idea as any how tall those sausage curbs are and how brutal they can be on cars that hit them.
Yeah, that 04 car now back down to 6th position. He did so much of a great job to pass Welch, but now the 85 of Welch and the 07 also got by him. Guzik now sitting back in 6th position. Sorry, getting a little bit tongue-tied, and apparently Nick Nickerson went off track for a minute as well.
He did. I was just keeping an eye on that, and it for a moment allowed Brandon Jackson to get his lap back, but of course, just as soon as he makes a mistake, Nick Nickerson immediately repeals it. So he is back to where he was. Brett Guzik is going to be a little ways up the road from him, and not too far though, so he's going to go down to only the top 5 in lead lap, and then after that, Cody Welch and I forgot his first name already, but Curtis Michaelis there in 4th and 5th, not too far ahead up the road.
Yeah, there you see the 99 of Brandon Jackson directly behind the 2 of Nick Nickerson. And a little bit of a battle here is Jarrett Grodzicki in the 75 car, right on the bumper of the 94 of Hunter Henry. Benny Hogan in the 88, a part of that battle as well. This is a battle for 9th position. And directly in front of them, or a little bit in front of them, the 8 car of Kevin Foster sitting in 8th position. We saw him with a good bit of trouble earlier, and he's done such a great job to get that number 8 Mustang all the way back up to 8th position. Definitely a quick car, obviously came in and got that fast repair. You can see how clean it is, but a really good drive to get it back up so far.
Yeah, he's done an incredible job being, until Brandon Jackson lost his lap, the number 1 guy a lap down, and thinking about him making that quick repair from earlier meant that he was able to drive with a car that was, I mean, we can guarantee there, Evan, based on how much damage it had, guarantee it was off the pace. But to take that car, get a car that was in a different condition, back to new, and still be able to make it work. It is an admirable effort there from the number 8 driver. So congratulations to Kevin Foster on having the race he's had. But here is Brett Guzik sitting just barely in front of Brandon Jackson. And Jackson's been keeping up with Nick Nickerson since he was lapped. It looks like he's kind of trying to follow in behind the line of the number 2 car, and he's done so. But Brett Guzik, who again has had a couple slip-ups here in his last couple laps, maybe just not working with the older tires as well as some other guys are, he is going to have to make sure he stays ahead of that number 99 car if he wants to keep hold of 6th spot.
Yeah, and we just saw Guzik go a lap down, so now everyone except for the top 5, Nick Nickerson has put 1 lap down. Little bit of a gap, though, up to that 07 car of Curtis Michaelis in the Exalta Camaro. Right now sitting in 5th position and 1 minute and 57 seconds behind your leader of Nick Nickerson. And speaking of lap times right now, well, first of all, the 85 car of Cody Welch heading down pit lane. But speaking of lap times, Nick Nickerson, his last lap time was 1 minute 58 seconds. Ricciard Jr.'s last lap time was 1 minute 59 seconds, and Curtis Yancey's was 2 minutes. Then you go back to the 07 car, his last lap time was 2 minutes and 3 seconds. But as we say that, Cody Welch and Brandon Jackson and Brett Guzik also heading in.
So this will be the official last stop for these guys. You can comfortably make it on field from this point. So at this point, it just becomes a matter of speed for these guys battling for position, that being Jackson and Guzik. So now they know they can just focus on the rest of the race, and makes it a little bit simpler in your head. You don't have that little variable of, okay, well, how is my pit in, pit out going to be? Now you can just focus on keeping it quick on track. But I do just want to give a very quick shout out as well. We're going to go back to the foot cam, but we're just going to give a very quick shout out to Curtis Michaelis, who has had the the drive of a season to this point. This is a season-making performance, really. This makes him kind of a star in the road course element, because compared to some guys, Curtis is just, he's looked comfortable and he's looked quick. And even though we don't have a profile picture there, I'm sure we'll get to know him over the course of this season if he continues to put together impressive road course performances like this. I can't wait to see what he does at yet another infield road course from an oval at Roval later this season.
Yeah, by the way that he has run tonight, and there you see him, Nick Nickerson, able to get by him as he went up top for him. By the way he has run tonight, I'm sure that we will definitely get to know him over the course of the season. Is right here, Kevin Foster getting passed by the 94 of Hunter Henry and the 75 of Jarek Grodzecki. Kevin Foster now sitting back in 10th position.
Yeah, this is looking like a fun battle. You saw just how much Grodzecki had to check up there in corner number 4 to avoid the car in front. So it kind of gives you the general idea that these guys are hungry. They're going to push for the apexes as hard as they can. And you saw it close to 75 there. Got to the back bumper of Hunter Henry. Now they're going to go side by side on exit. This long right-hand sweeper that I think is corner number 7. Right as you come up back towards the entry to the oval. Side by side once again. Foster's going to send it to the inside. Great move there by Kevin Foster. Back up into 9th. And you know he wants his position to match the number on that car. He wants 8th real quickly. And if he can stay on the draft on Hunter Henry, he may do so. Just a quick note that Nick Nickerson, your race leader, has now come in for his final pit stop.
Yeah, also coming in, the 83 car back in 16th position of Jason Greenwell, and the 9 of Joey Zaremba all the way back in 30th position. Those guys on pit road as well. So there you
Kevin
see
Foster.
Go ahead.
Great exit there to the bus stop. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Kevin Foster with the great exit, like you said, doing everything he can to gain on Hunter Henry there. And then up in front, we got Brett Guzik and Brandon Jackson battling for that 6th position. Jackson in 6th, Guzik back down in 7th now.
So I'll throw it to you, Evan, as we watch Brandon Jackson's foot cam here as he passes a lap car to his outside. I'll throw it to you because I don't know, based on the experiences in the past, the last season of road courses, who has had abilities in the past. I've only seen Long Beach in this race. So if you had to take a stab at, okay, who could be the guy to dethrone Nick Nickerson based on what you saw at Long Beach, based on what you saw last season, and based on what you've seen tonight, who do you think the best chance is of anybody in this field to beat Nick Nickerson at either Roval or Road America before the end of the season?
Yeah, I really can't tell you, because last season we went to Sonoma, the 3rd race of the season. The winner of that race was Nick Nickerson. Then a little bit later in the season, we went to Mid-Ohio. The winner of that race was Nick Nickerson. So I really don't know who it could be. I know that at both of those races, the driver of the 64 car, Ricciard Jr., he had really good runs at both of those races, but still nothing comparable to Nick Nickerson's runs. And this season, though, I know Curtis Yancey, he's had some good runs. I believe he finished up high there at Long Beach, but I really don't know. Nobody seems to be on the level that I've seen of the driver of the number 2 car. I'll go ahead and Matt Crockett, if you're still watching there in YouTube, if you're still watching, who do you think could be capable of dethroning Nick Nickerson? I know that Matt has a lot more time with these drivers. He's seen them a lot more than I have, so I'll go ahead and ask him, and I'll be looking for that comment down there in the YouTube chat to see what you think, Matt, because I really don't know.
One thing I just want to mention very quickly is that looking at the timing sheet, I know that I saw the comment there from Matt in the chat saying Curtis and Curtis 3 and 4. I look up at the timing tower, and that's not true. Where did Ricky Hart go? Sitting in 2nd to that point, must have pitted, but if he did, he had a great pit cycle because he is considerably closer to Curtis Yancey than I would have guessed. But at the same time, I can't confirm that he has pitted, so I'll have to keep an eye on him and see if that is the case. But he didn't pit this time by, so I'd imagine that Ricky Hart is indeed still in 2nd. But now Curtis Yancey comes into the pits, so is going to cycle back to 3rd, and it will be, as Matt said in the chat there, Curtis and Curtis, well, 4th and 4th provisionally, but now Curtis Michaelis has pitted, and the 07 car is now in the just 7 position.
Yeah, so Ricky Hart Jr. has pitted 3 times. Curtis Yancey now has pitted 3 times, as you see him coming out right now. So far, everyone has pitted 3 times, except for the 94 car of Hunter Henry sitting down there in 10th position. Also, the 13 of Christopher Ferrara sitting back in 13th position. Those guys have only pitted 2 times. And a shout out to in the comments section, Kelly Queel says that driver of the number 8 car, Kevin Foster, don't count him out as long as we have laps. So Foster in the 8 car sitting in 8th. I don't believe he's going to be able to do it this race with 6 laps to go, but he's definitely going to be one that I will keep an eye out for as we head to the Roval a little bit later in the season and to Road America. I know he's definitely a really good driver, definitely a really fast driver. I think he just ran into some unfortunate circumstances this race, but he's definitely one of those guys that's always there at the end. So he could definitely be one to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I think if you remove his struggles from the very beginning of the race, maybe chalk it up to about 30 seconds, he could realistically be within the top 5 in tonight's race. So I think aside from those early issues, Kevin Foster has been one of the most consistent and fast guys on the entire track. Now back to, there he is, as you see him coming up towards turn 1. Only 6 laps to go in tonight's race, or 5 when Nick crosses the line next. So not a ton of time. I think Kevin, if he can just keep the car on track, is not considerably ahead of Jarrett Grzycki and Hunter Henry, but is certainly enough so that if he can keep up the pace that he had to this point, won't be a tough ride home for 8th for him.
And sorry, a little bit of trouble there, as it seems like my internet may have stuttered or something for a second, but I believe we're good to go again now. And just another thing that I want to go ahead and bring up at least one more time. Nick Nickerson, of course, still out front, but Nickerson now with a 1:10 lead on Ricky Hart Jr. there in 2nd place, and a 1:15 lead on Curtis Yancey in 3rd place. Then 4th on back is at least 1 lap down. So a great showing here from Nick Nickerson, driver of the number 2 car. And I don't think he's going to be able to lap 2nd and 3rd, but still a whole minute ahead of them on track.
I will put this out there. If Bill Harkins is rewatching this to this point, if you move the All-Star Invitational from USA International to any road course, and I mean any road course, I will sub in from the broadcast booth, take a runoff, and I will put weeks into practicing for this, because watching Nick Nickerson just makes me so fascinated to see if I could keep up with him. It's like when you watch a real-life NASCAR race on track and go, I wonder if I could put my name in the hat in a battle with that guy. And man, Bill, if you're willing to change it and you're willing to put it at a road course, I will sub into the car and put all sorts of time in just to beat Nick. I just want to see it happen before I'm dead. And I may be at the tender young age of 17, but man, I don't know if that'll be enough years, man. Nick just looks so comfortable in that car, and might take a real-life comeback from my favorite NASCAR road course driver, Marcos Ambrose, to get used to the sim and give him a run for his money, because other than that, I don't know what it's going to take.
Yeah, and we've got a little bit of a battle brewing right here, looking at the 26 of Garrett Hall, then right in front of him, the 94 car of Hunter Henry. Hall gaining on him just a little bit, looking to make the pass to get into the top 10 here with 5 laps to go at Daytona. And I will say, even if that all-star race, even if it's not moved to a road course, we may have to see if there's some way that we can get you on track with Nick. I want to see, I definitely want to see what you'll be like against Nickerson, as we see side by side with the 26 and the 94, Garrett Hall and Hunter Henry fighting through this infield section to get the top 10.
Yeah, 2 very different races for these two to this point in the race. The 94 of Hunter Henry has been in the top 10 consistently all race. Once he got up there to the front at the beginning, he didn't seem to lose too many spots, but Garrett Hall has had to fight from the back, and now he's got 1 more spot. Garrett Hall moves up into I believe that's the 10th position, so into the top 10 for a guy who's had a very long and very tumultuous race to this point. But even if Hunter Henry drops out of the top 10, what a race for the 94 tonight. That was kind of the same way as Curtis Michaelis. This has been a performance that'll give us a glimpse into the rest of his season. Garrett Hall, though, kind of got checked up in front of by another car, and as a result, going to slide through the bus stop, manages to save it. Hunter Henry has to go around, just narrowly avoids him on the exit. Garrett Hall, though, that lap car giving him some trouble, and now the battle will reset. Hunter Henry, at least for the time being, back to the outside of the number 26 car, going to go side by side up towards that final chicane. You can't go too wide, so we'll see who is going to back down from the fight.
Yeah, and hard into the braking zone of that final chicane. The 26 car outbraking Henry just a little bit, but we'll see if that 94 can catch up. He definitely has time. 4 laps to go. Garrett Hall in the 26 sitting in 10th position. The 94 of Hunter Henry sitting in 11th.
And not much time left to go in tonight's race. Keeping an eye here between Ricky Hart and Curtis Yancey, but now that the pit cycles have worked out, doesn't look like that gap is going to change all too much. So it's stayed at 8 for quite a while. A lap car there you see in front. I am not sure who that was, but that would have given Ricky quite the scare there at the very end. Would have been curious to see what his Skype looked like in that particular moment. But yeah, Ricky Hart, man, you talk about the two guys, the top 2 guys in last year's championship, of course, in a different car discipline altogether, but Nick Nickerson and Ricky Hart. And we come over to tonight, and it feels like the 2 guys, Evan, that we're talking about everywhere we go are Nick Nickerson and Ricky Hart. So both guys have taken wins this season. Nick, I believe, will become the first driver to take 2. Yeah, it's been a great season for Ricky, and this should show, if anything, that a guy that, again, we don't think of traditionally as being a road course ringer. We just think of as an all-rounder versus a guy that really is more so than anything, also all-round. But Nick Nickerson should be considered a road course specialist because I've never seen anybody do it better. But Ricky Hart just seems to have this knowledge of the car. He just seems to have this knowledge of NASCAR stock car racing to the point where we could take this car to the Nordschleife, and I feel like Ricky Hart would be an almost lock for the top 3, maybe the top 5, maybe even the number 1 spot. I feel like he's just so solid, knows the car so well, and just doesn't seem to make mistakes.
Yeah, and one thing that Matt Crockett said in the YouTube chat a little bit earlier, but I want to go ahead and bring up Nick Nickerson on iRacing right now. He is a Class A road racer. Safety rating is 4.99, which is as good as you can get it.
That is just absurd. Like, I don't know how guys that do that, but it says something not just to your pace and your abilities, but your ability to stay out of incidents. Because on iRacing, you join any official lobby. It can be an A class, it can be super fancy, it can be cars that only the top of the top run, and you're going to have guys that give you trouble that you can't rely on that mess up your safety rating. But to keep it at 4.99, it says something about the poise and patience and just overall comfort on not only whatever car you're running, but comfort on the sim in general. And both Nick and guys like Ricky Hart show that race after race. And it's something that I think separates the guys that are good, that can get a win every once in a while, from the truly elite, the true championship contenders. And Nickerson, Hart, and maybe we'll find out if we can put somebody else in that category. Brandon Jackson's looked really comfortable, and he's looked great all year. So maybe another guy to consider for that. But yeah, I think that safety rating is a very adequate descriptor of just how good Nick Nickerson is. There is Curtis Yancey, sits 3rd currently. That car trying to get it in gear back up to speed, but the first mistake we've seen from that 51 car, not just lately, but maybe all race.
Yeah, that 51 car, he's looked a little bit loose all race, but able to stay keep control of it. But trouble for him, I don't think anybody's going to be able to capitalize, though, as the 99 car of Brandon Jackson in 4th position is a good ways back. Yeah, Brandon Jackson just now heading into the infield section. Curtis Yancey almost 50 seconds ahead of the 4th place car of Jackson. So able to get it back on track and hopefully with no damage. Didn't look like he really got into the wall or anything from what I saw. Looked like he just got into the grass. So thankfully for him, 51 car of Curtis Yancey going to be good to go in the 3rd position.
Yeah, at this point, he's just trying to bring it home. And you talk about he's had a very loose race car really throughout the entirety of this race. But I think a lot of that is just how aggressive he really is into some of these corners. And some guys like Nick Nickerson don't really seem to be pushing the car at all. It just looks so comfortable for him. But Curtis Yancey he's pushing that car to find any bit of time he can. And though it may not be as sustainable as the line a couple other drivers are taking, the fact that he's got to this point without a considerable crash is something to be proud of for the driver of the 51 car. Whoa, huge run. Right as I say, I don't want to jinx the guy, but whoa, catches 2 curbs of the 3. Huge bump there off that inside sausage curb on the run down to the corner. The back end gets a little bit wiggly on you, and the car can try to slide, and that's what happened to him there. Great that he was able to save it, but Curtis Yancey, another scare here towards the end of tonight's event.
Yeah, Yancey definitely driving that 51 Mustang on the edge. As there you see him get a little bit loose again. I would assume that 51 car is on some fairly old tires here with 2 laps to go at Daytona. Nick Nickerson cleanly out front.
And Nick Nickerson did just cross the line for the white flag, so 1 to go here in tonight's race at Daytona Road Course. Here is Garrett Hall, I believe, well, just lapped by Ricky Hart there. But, man, at this point, Evan, I almost think with how quick these guys have been, how consistent they've both stayed, and how much time Garrett Hall has made up, I'd almost be curious to watch this battle with both guys on the lead lap for position. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That Oh, I was just looking at my standings real quick, but couldn't get it to load. But yeah, final lap here. Nick Nickerson gonna be out front. Ricky Hart Jr. a minute and 16 seconds behind him. Yancey a minute 33. Everyone else a lap down. And before we really get to the end of this race, such a great job for the driver of the 99 car and the 04 car. Both of those guys had a little bit of trouble there in the beginning. And the 99 car, Brandon Jackson up to 4th position. The 04, Brett Guzik, up to 5th. And great jobs, great drive from both of those guys here on the final lap, sitting 4th and 5th, especially as far back as the 99 car had to come to get back up here.
Yeah, I think a proper shout-out really has to go to everybody in the top 10. Everybody that's able to even be only a lap down from a guy who's just been as comfortable as Nick Nickerson has been is a tribute to how good of a driver you are in that on its own. But now we see Nick Nickerson through the NASCAR 3 and 4 turns towards the end of the lap. I may dub the nickname right-hand wrangler here, and right turn wrangler, you could say, here in this very moment, because, man, I have just never seen a guy do what Nick Nickerson does. Through the final time, through that final chicane, the big sausage curbs, he doesn't care. He's going to avoid them comfortably. I can't wait to see them putting up the wanted posters in the morning. Who can beat this man at a road course? Nick Nickerson, win number 2 on the season at Daytona Road Course. Congratulations to the driver of the number 2 car.
There you see, as he takes the checkered flag, still just as focused as he could be in the Skype camera, making sure that he gets around the rest of the track cleanly in order to not gain any more incident points. I'm not sure if he's got any yet, but you get a ton of, I believe it's 5 points for an incident-free race. So definitely trying to make sure that he doesn't get any incident points after the flag, but finishing in 2nd place, or who should be finishing in 2nd place, 64 car of Ricky Hart Jr. on the next to last chicane now, making his way around.
Just want to give a quick shout out that I really like this new livery that the 64 car is running. I'm a big fan of the color scheme, and maybe a little bit of an unusual thing here as we wait for Ricky Hart to come through the final chicane and complete one of his many top 3 podiums and top 5s on the season so far. It's been a great year so far for the 64, doing his very best to repeat from his championship last season. But through the final turn, Ricky Hart can guarantee himself a 2nd spot. He will get to the flag momentarily. Puts a great paint scheme in a great position. 2nd place tonight for Ricky Hart.
Great run from the Materia Tattoo 64 Supra. And then here we have the 51 car of Curtis Yancey coming to the flag. Still loose coming out of the chicane. But the Bass Pro Shops 51 Mustang gonna bring it home in 3rd position. Back a little ways though. Now we have the 99 car of Brandon Jackson. The Bleacher Report. Mustang in trouble there with Bill Harkins.
Whoa, keep in mind though, Guzik, I think he's still battling for him for position, so I didn't see him in the background there, but that could have been catastrophic if that had happened just slightly earlier.
Yeah, Jackson was able to form a little bit of a bubble there. Thankfully for him, because that, like you said, that almost could have been catastrophic. Here you see the foot cam of Jackson. Oh, as he's going to go around. And Guzik may be able to take the position at the last second. The 99 car is going to stay in the throttle.
I think they're done. I think he's just heading to pit road.
They should
I'm just
be
realizing
done.
now because Nick Nickerson's been doing burnouts at victory lane at the finish line for quite a while. So I'm like, oh man, if a guy's still running his laps, that's going to be real awkward.
Yeah, I
no,
forgot about that the 99 car was a lap down. So should be over now. And thankfully for him, as he was able to, as he backs it into the wall there. But yeah, thankfully for him that he was a lap down with that mistake coming out of the last turn.
We have a showdown burnout going on here between the 2 and the 8 car. Kevin Foster doing burnouts with Nickerson, your race winner.
All right, and our final result is going to be ready to view as it took so long for those guys to finish. So let's see if we can pull it up. And of course, I go ahead and mess that up like I do every single race, but there we go now. Nick Nickerson, tonight's winner in the number 2 car. Behind him, of course, 64 of Ricciard Jr., followed by Curtis Yancey, the top H&M Motorsports driver, then Brandon Jackson. Brett Guzik in 5th, followed by Cody Welch, Curtis Michaelis, Kevin Foster, Jarrett Grodzicki, and Garrett Hall to round out the top 10.
Into the next 10, we got Benny Hogan finishing in 11th ahead of Hunter Henry there. Hunter Henry, again, we talked about it earlier. Great race there for the number 94 car. Same to Benny Hogan. But Peter Murphy will finish in 13th. Christopher Ferrara, pretty quiet day for him. He's definitely one of your top championship contenders who has yet to get a win, but he will finish 14th tonight. Jason Greenwell is just behind Victor Weaver, finishing 16th and 15th respectively. Then Trey Ellis will finish in the 17th position. Eddie Hagee in 18th. Bill Harkins will come across the line 19th. And David Leakey, who had quite the difficult race at times, but was able to bring it across the line for 20th in the end.
In 21st position was Connor Sawyer in the 48 car, a new driver there, I believe. Then after that, Bivens in the 76, followed by Sullivan in the 18, 24th position. Dustin Franklin in the 60 car, followed by Benjamin Lacey in the 7, 4 laps down. Definitely an unfortunate finish for that 7 car. I'm not sure what happened to him, but in 26th position, the 93 of Alan Castle, followed by Mason Flagar, Anthony Caetano. Then in 29th, Tyler Rowland.
Finishing in 30th tonight, a fellow marshal like myself, Mr. Marshall Moran, will finish in the 30th spot. Joey Zaremba will finish in 31st. Nicholas Sneed will come across the line in 32nd. Corey Shepard in 33rd, finishing where he 20 spots back where he started. James Hartley will come across the line in 34th. Matt Crockett will finish in 35th. But not only was he a driver tonight, thank you, Matt, for your chat audibles there throughout the race. They made things easier for both of us, I'd imagine. But Terry Condes finishes in 36th. Kale Zook will come across the line 37th. Thomas Fensler, your last driver to finish the race, in 38th. And Michael Van Diver, who started the race, did not actually start a lap.
All right, so finishing in 3rd position was Curtis Yancey, so we're going to see if we can get him on the radio here in a minute. But before we do, as always, going to head to a commercial real quick so that we can get that set up. So we will be right back in about 30 seconds.
Guys, and here at Evanwall Media is where I do my broadcasting.
5 laps to go. Brandon Jackson in the lead. Nick Nickerson. And he turns him. The 99 of Jackson gets turned by Nickerson.
But I bet you didn't know that I also do in-person photography and videography, as well as graphic design, including, but not limited to, iRacing paint schemes and posters. Check it all out over at evanwallmedia.com. Thank y'all, and you enjoy the race.
And with that, we are now ready to go for the first of tonight's 3 interviews. First off, interviewing Mr. Curtis Yancey, finishing in 3rd in tonight's event. Hey, Curtis, you got me in the booth.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Well, man, I mean, tonight was a challenge for many guys. Daytona Road Course, one of the toughest tracks we're going to come to on the calendar. It's such a unique challenge, one that almost isn't really built for the Xfinity NASCARs. But you seem to have comfort there all the way through, but it was in a way that was different than everybody else. You seem to be really pushing the car. You had the hands working. You were really pushing the car as hard as you could in each corner, trying to get the best out of it. When you got to that point early in the race where you had a pretty consistent 3rd, you were well clear of the guys behind. did your lap by lap approach change? Were you trying to ease the car off, or were you kind of the mindset that you were to do what you had done up to that point was the only way you were going to get to the end? I know some guys kind of get in a rhythm and can't do anything other than 100%. So would you say that kind of defined the race you had tonight?
Yeah, I'd say it has some portion to do with it. I know early in the race, before I'd say about lap 15, where the top 5 or more were really close together, it was more like I need to get as much as I can out of the car to build up a gap. I knew there wasn't going to be much competition behind. That's not saying anything against these guys' talents. These guys are good drivers, but it's just I know the times from earlier practice sessions, there wasn't going to be much. It was going to be Nick obviously going to go win the race, and then it was going to be a pretty good fight for second. I knew it was going to be me, Ricky, Brandon. I don't know what happened to him. I guess he got taken out on the first lap. But yeah, it was build up a gap until you can, or as much as you can until you can sort of back your pace off. But then I noticed when I started to back my pace off is when I started to make many mistakes, which evidently cost me P2. So.
Mm-hmm. I mean, speaking of which, I mean, Ricky was quick all race. The two of you were running almost identical lap times for a large portion of the event. Just kind of talk about, those later mistakes. Was it something inspired by the lap traffic tonight? Was it just something with the older tires? Just what was giving you troubles there at the end, and how were you able to recover from that to the end of the race?
Yeah, I definitely have to say part of everything you mentioned, part of the tires' fault. With the one set of tires that we get on road courses, it's pretty brutal. Definitely brutal here. I know it was brutal at Long Beach, and more than likely going to be brutal when we go to Road America, which we're also running 40 laps there. So if it was my idea, I'd say we give us 2 extra sets to work with. It would definitely make strategy more interesting. When to pit for tires, when to save tires. Okay, I got a set here, I can push then. But yeah, also definitely part of lap traffic. Some of these guys can't use their heads out there. They can't look up 3 inches to look at their mirror to know when a car's coming behind. You get cars when you go to the inside, they cut you off. Going into the backstretch chicane, I know I got held up many times. Just following a lap car. He brakes at his normal spot, I brake at my normal spot, and then he just goes straight on and to pass the bus stop, which doesn't make any sense to me. If you're braking at your normal point, why don't you just commit to the bus stop? Why don't you just commit to the corner? I don't care if you want to race me through the corner, just commit and do something. Don't halfway through your commitment back out and avoid the corner or swerve one way. Just hold your line if you're a lapped car.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair enough wish to have for any given race. And I mean, really, all things considered, I think guys were generally pretty clean in the end, and in the end, it didn't give you enough trouble to keep you out of the top 3. And now that you've had great races at both Long Beach and now to this point here at there we go. Sorry, I'm back. There we go. I'm back. Yeah, does it kind of change your approach to each race when you see what track is on the calendar for next week? Now that you were as quick as you were at Long Beach and you are now as quick as you were tonight to come away with 3rd at Daytona Road Course, when you see an oval on a calendar versus seeing a road course on the calendar for next week, which at this point going forward in the season is going to give you more confidence in your own abilities?
I definitely say, depending on the oval, it might be the oval, it might be the road course. I know we only have, I believe, one more road course, which is Road America. Not too good around there. I still think Nick's going to obviously go pull out for the win there. Definitely it's going to be a fight for second, just like it was at Long Beach, just like it was here. But I think it's going to be a little bit more tight of a fight for Road America. Definitely going into next week, I think, is going to be good, especially with the new track parameters update that iRacing got for a bunch of the oval tracks. Definitely going to make the ovals a lot better, especially at not Road America, Auto Club. The top is going to be viable. You're going to see guys run the top that have confidence in their car and their ability to run the top, to go either rip the top, rip the second lane. Then you're going to have the guys that are going to run the bottom. Haven't done much testing there, but I think the top might be a little faster. But definitely going to be preference. I still think both lanes are going to be viable.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see as you talk about how that new update affects the racing we see, and hopefully, hopefully you're right. Is that it'll make it more interesting and more competitive than the opposite. But well, overall, not to take away from tonight's race by talking about next week, Curtis, it was a great race. Congratulations on 3rd, man, and a great performance like that deserves plenty of shout outs. So this is the opportunity where you get to give some shout outs to people at home, talk about sponsors if you have any, and it is your time as always.
don't really have many sponsors, just throwing logos on the car as much as I like. If anyone wants to hit me up, you can go in the Discord, find my name, PM me about anything. I'll put your logo on the car, whatever. But yeah, just got to thank the H&M guys. We definitely share a lot of setup stuff on how to, even though we can't really change much, little minute changes with the offset, the brake bias is definitely a change. But definitely got to thank the H&M guys. That's about it.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, hey, any logo you put on your car seems like it'll get plenty of airtime tonight, or and at least as far as this season to this point. So, congratulations, Curtis. You've had a great year so far. Can't wait to see what you do next week, and we will see you at Auto Club. Hopefully, you can make that that new top line that is now viable work to your advantage.
Yeah, I hope so too. Appreciate it.
Awesome. See you next week, Curtis.
Yeah.
All right, and then finishing in second position was the driver of the number 64 car, Ricky Hart Jr. You got a copy?
I got you. Loud and clear. What's up, guys?
Not too much. You had a good run there at the end. Obviously couldn't do anything to catch the number 2 car, but definitely the second fastest car on the track tonight. You had a little bit of a race there with the 51 of Curtis Yancey, but just kind of walk us through your race. Obviously, Nickerson was out in front of the field, but other than that, walk us through your race.
I didn't think I was that far behind Nick. I thought I was going to get him. I thought I was like one corner away, and I was like, bam, going to pounce. I heard a lot of people in chat saying, sorry. But as far as the race went, I did exactly what I wanted. When I posted, the race earlier, I said it's a race for second. Everybody knew that Nick was going to win. Well, you can't say that, but Nick's the best road courser we got. He's, a ringer for the road courses. So I was going for second place, and I was going for no incidents, and I got no incidents, and I got second place. So I met my goals. So I'm really excited. I'm taking it as a win. It's one step closer. I like these road courses. It's just a different discipline. They're fun. They're awesome. A lot of guys on track tonight. It was a little, sloppy, but all in all the guys did a really good job. I wasn't getting run over, none of that. You could tell some of the guys were getting a little nervous, going into some of the corners, but it's just racing. And that's especially when it's not really our discipline. Ovals are. I think they did a great job out there, and I'm really proud of my performance too. And congratulations to Nick.
Yeah, you definitely had a good race, and it seems like you always do at the road tracks. And I know that I think you consider yourself more of an oval driver. Obviously, you're better than a lot of people at the ovals, but every single time we come to a road course, you're up here finishing near the top, and you may not necessarily be at the level of Nick Nickerson, but you're definitely usually one of the top 3 drivers up here. So do you really consider yourself an all-around driver, or do you consider yourself an oval driver that just happens to be good at the road courses as well?
Never really thought about that. I mean, I've been on iRacing for a long time. I've run a lot of different disciplines of racing on iRacing. Dirt oval, I dabbled in that. Dirt racing, when that first came out, that was all the rage. I dabbled in that for a little bit. Road racing, I took the time. I got up to either a D or a C license, I'm not sure. And I always want to get more into it. I think it's awesome. It's really fun when you get to go out and you get to string 14 turns together instead of, or is it 16 now? How many turns is it now? I don't even know. But
Not sure.
yeah, instead of just 4 turns, I just have fun with it. It's different. You get to run a lot more practice this last week than we normally do. Saw a lot of guys out there practicing too, and I don't know. I just enjoy it. I take the time. I focus when I get in the race car, and I set my goals. I don't go to win. I go for just on track experience. It just seems to pay off for me. So, not sure if I answered your question there. Sorry.
Oh yeah, definitely gave a good enough answer there, and that kind of brings me to my next thing. Next week we're going to be at Auto Club. We got 100 laps, 200 miles around Auto Club, and you won there last year. So is that somewhere that you're excited for? Is that a track that you like, considering you got the win last year?
No, I don't know how I won last year. I do not like Auto Club. I've never really liked it, but then again, there's other tracks that I didn't like very much, and I went out and I won on them. I think this car is going to be tight next week, which doesn't do the greatest for me, but then again, Las Vegas was tight. We did okay there. I'm excited. There's a lot of room. There's a lot of lanes at Auto Club. We got this new build that just came out, and they changed a lot of the on-track stuff. I'm not sure if Auto Club was one they touched. So I'm excited to get back to an oval and see what that's all about. Yeah, always going out there looking for the win, of course. So I guess I'm excited to get out there, try the new build, and go for the win.
Yeah, for sure. Before you head off, though, as always, this is your time to go ahead and thank anybody that you have to thank. So I'll let you go ahead with that.
Materia Tattoo, as always. Thank my wife, my daughter Alba, baby that's on the way, my dog Chevy. How much time do I have?
As much as you want.
Okay. All right, sweet. We'll go with Rocco, Ian, Kevin, Chris Moretti, Anthony Dallas. No, I'm not gonna keep bothering you with it. Just everybody out there that comes and watches the races, supports us. Bandit Racing League, you guys doing this, Evan, you're awesome. Just everybody that's involved. Everybody's really cool. I have a really good time doing this. I look forward to next week and all the weeks to come, and keep going strong. We got a good little community behind us, and yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yes, sir, for sure. Definitely look forward to every Wednesday night, and thank you, as Ricky said, to anybody that watches this, just anybody at all that's watching. We really appreciate y'all. And so with that, good luck next week at Auto Club.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. See you guys next week.
All right, and then with that, I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Marshall Crockett, who is going to do our final interview.
Hey, Nick, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Hey, how's it going, man?
It is going pretty well, and well, I'd imagine that even if it was a turnout that a lot of guys in the series maybe would have guessed coming in. I mean, you are known as the road course ringer. You're known as having a lot of comfort at these tracks, but I talked about beforehand, I think the only thing that was realistically going to give you some troubles tonight, in your quest to the win that you did come away with, was lap traffic, was the one kind of outlier, the one variable that may have changed. I know Curtis gave one message. We seem to take it away as guys were being pretty clean. But what was your view on it? Were the lap traffic cars being pretty easy to work with tonight? Were they being predictable? And was it a lot of stress for you throughout the course of tonight's race?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too terrible. There was a couple times that, coming out of the bus stop, somebody would kind of get loose and I didn't know which way to go. And I almost nosed it into the wall a couple times. But, I mean, with such a large lead early on, I was able to be kind of cautious and pick when I was going to pass guys. I wasn't just stuffing it in every corner when I had the chance. I was trying to maybe get a good run out of certain corners and be able to pass them on the straight. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I didn't really have much of a problem. Everybody was driving pretty decent. Yeah, I mean, it was good.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what I like to hear. And I mean, tonight was the second road course of the year. You had Long Beach at the beginning of the season. You got your first win, that launching into the championship, and you come into tonight without the need for that. So did your mindset from race one at Long Beach, where knowing how good you are at road courses, that probably felt like this is my chance for the championship? Did you come into tonight thinking about it any different? Was tonight a little bit more comfortable? Because every time we went to one of your cameras, you just seemed to have this comfort about you. We saw you like taking a drink there. We saw you just looking like you weren't even running a race. Then we'd go to another camera and it looked like somebody was putting every fiber of their being into keeping the car on track. So did you have any more comfort coming into tonight's second road course, knowing that you'd won the first and were locked into the championship? Or the playoffs, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily because of the championship. Honestly, like the only way that you can run these, like running road course and oval are two completely different animals. Like you're on edge on the ovals. With these road courses, you really have to be calm and collective. And that's the only way you're going to make it through these races with the speed that like I have. And, I was just relaxed the whole time, making sure that I didn't spin the wheels too much. And, you don't want to make any crazy moves. That's where you start getting into trouble, and you don't want to put other guys into any weird situations because it was a very slick track. These cars are set up to go however fast on the oval part, and then we're having to make like these sharp turns at low speeds. It's just didn't want to put anybody in any weird situations where they can, go off track or collide into me. So, I mean, that was it. I mean, really all I came to this race, when it's a road course, everybody knows how good I do on there. I just come to smash on the competition.
Perfect.
As long as I can. Eventually, one of these guys is going to pick it up. I mean, they have to,
Well, I was saying before, the one thing I want to see, and this isn't meant to be an offense to you, Nick, but I just want to see somebody just once get one on you. Just find a track, find a set of circumstances, and get one. I was saying I want to see it before I'm dead, and though I may be 17 and have a lot of years left in my life, when you run the races like that, man, it doesn't look like a certainty. It looks pretty comfortable. But again, I shouldn't discount the season you've had to this point on only your 2 wins at road courses. I mean, you've had runner-ups, you've had top 5s all season when we go to the ovals, and next week we go to Auto Club, which a big talking point in the first 2 interviews was with the new iRacing package, the new dynamic tracks, where the multiple lines that Auto Club is known for in the NASCAR community become more feasible. Is that going to change the way you approach the next oval on the season? And when do you think we're going to see that 3rd win of the season at an oval? Do you think that's realistic before we go to our next road course?
I certainly hope so. There's a couple that I think I could be pretty good at. It's all just about minimizing the mistakes, throughout the race. A lot of these guys in this league are very good at saving tires, and that's always kind of like my biggest flaw in the ovals. But as far as the dynamic track at Auto Club, man, it's been a long time since we had like a good dynamic track model when it first came out. So I'm not even sure how I would approach that. I'm probably just gonna have to use Auto Club as a test bed. If it works out, great. If not, then let's find out why it didn't and then move on to the next week. But I think it's gonna be a good race. Auto Club is kind of one of those tracks that I really do enjoy. However, it's very easy to wear your tires out really quick if you don't pick the right line. So I'm interested to see what's gonna happen next week.
Yeah, and so are we. I can't wait to see how you adjust to it. And best of luck there, man. I know that I don't want it to become so much of a single discipline dynamic or narrative around your season.
Yeah.
You've really been great everywhere. So I want you to get that oval win. That way people can look at you as an all-rounder rather than a road course swinger who just happens to be really consistent at ovals. But, well, as we always do in the interviews, this is your opportunity. If you want to give a thanks to anybody at home, give a shout out to anybody on track, or give a shout out to any of your sponsors.
Yeah, man. I guess thanks for Bill and Matt for all they do with the league, and anybody else. I don't know if there's anybody else that really runs the league. And thank you and Evan for putting on the broadcast, man. It's just an awesome broadcast. I love watching them the day after.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man. It means a lot, and to know people are enjoying what we're doing here is probably just as good of a feeling as coming away with the win tonight. But you did. You pick up your 2nd win of the season. Congratulations, Nick. Can't wait to see you next week on Wednesday at Auto Club. And I said it early in the broadcast. I put the call out to Bill there, but I said if he wants to move the Invitational to a road course, I will put the time in. I will put in the practice. Got a karting background. I feel like I would be one of the guys more than willing to give you a shot there at that road course title. So something to think about. If it comes up. I look forward to going for the challenge there.
Yeah, I'm always willing to. I welcome somebody to give me a little competition here. One of these guys are going to figure it out eventually. I'm not going to be able to do this year after year. Curtis showed some good speed. Obviously, Ricky showed some good speed too. There's probably just one thing that they're missing, and eventually they're going to figure it out. And then I'm going to have somebody right on my tail the whole time. So looking forward to that. But I'm also enjoying right now. So
as you should. I'd say soak it in before one of those guys figures out that missing ingredient. And how about this? If you sweep the season, you win all 4 road courses, I'll get you like a championship belt with a right turn on it that you can defend every week. We'll get a tangible item there, show it on the broadcast. I look forward to that. So cool. You can hold me to that at the end of the season. But first, you got to win at Auto Club. So best of luck next week, Nick. Have a great rest of your season, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. Take care.
You too.
All right, so that was Nick Nickerson, driver of the number 2 car. And that's going to do it for tonight's broadcast. As we've said a couple times, next week we'll be heading to Auto Club, 100 laps around that track, 200 miles of the race. And it'll be same place here on the Evan Wall Media YouTube channel. So for myself and Marshall here next to me, thank you to everybody who has watched tonight, and that's going to do it. We'll see you all next week. Thanks. Y'all have a good night.
See you guys.